like for a period of time, I had that price tag on my head.
Oh, there you go. That's
So,
nice.
I felt no pressure at all. To be
No.
honest. No.
How did it go out of interest?
I mean, not great
Right.
in hindsight. But no, going back to your question, let's
Right,
ignore
yeah,
that.
yeah,
and let's
yeah,
move
yeah,
past the yak and the goats, because I don't know why we're talking about yak and goats at 35 minutes past 6 in the morning. Will he feel the pressure? Yeah, look, £72 million. He was their key signing of the summer, like massive signing, of course. And I think when you're bringing in a player like that, of that value, you're expecting the instant impact. You're expecting the Thierry Henry, the new Thierry Henry version 2.0, and it's just not been the case so far.
Is that a little bit unfair, though, to expect that of players? Because it does take players, it can take players quite a long time to settle in, and it can at times take a full season. I mean, I remember it took Darren Fletcher his entire career.
Yeah, that's not very nice, but no, it can. Look, it can. You're right. It can take time to acclimatise. Do you know what it is? I just don't. Right, the final delivery's been pretty poor. Finished. I'll tell you what it is. It is the finishing's not been great. Yes, they've been a good example. It's quite basic technique, and I guess at those moments when you need to be clinical, and it is harsh that you're putting a price tag on their head, because if it's a youth team player, then is it something different because they've come through the academy and they miss that type of chance? Do we let them off? I still don't think we do. I still think you say, actually, technically, it's come across your body in that way. It's not a particularly good technique. You've miscued it because of that. I still think regardless, £72 million or not, you're still looking at that and saying that's technically pretty poor. And I think that's what it is for me so far, what I've seen. There's moments where you can see as a player in there, you can see why he's obviously done well previously, but I just wonder, coming into the Premier League, it is a step up. Has he got the end product? So far, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, well, he does make the biggest flops 11 that the Daily Mail rather kindly produce. Also, Hugo Lloris, I've heard a vicious rumour that he's been nominated for the Ballon d'Or.
There's a lot.
Is that a joke?
No, there's a lot of British-based players nominated, 7 from Liverpool, including Wijnaldum as well, which I found. Which, by the way, maybe that's credit to Wijnaldum that he doesn't get the credit that he deserves, and maybe elsewhere he is getting that credit because he's on the shortlist of 30. But yeah, Hugo Lloris, which you would assume would be because of the World Cup, I guess. I mean, he's not had his best season. I mean, and Kieran has just reminded me that it's 2019, which I'm assuming.
Think that.
Yeah, but I don't know, because you're thinking, what has he done since then? And this is me as a goalkeeper who is, of course, I back goalkeepers to the hilt, but I just think that, look, he did do well last season, as much as but he got a lot of criticism. He made some major mistakes at major times. He got a lot of criticism. So you just wonder, what is it based on? Who makes the decisions?
I don't know, but I hope that in the way that... Do you remember when we were given the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to name a new Arctic exploratory vessel?
Remember it well.
And we went for Boaty McBoatface. Yeah. I just wonder if that's something like that,
Were you involved in the selection panel?
Yeah. I voted 100,000 times.
Yes, I bet you did. There's plenty more that we're going to touch on today. You mentioned the Ballon d'Or nominees. We're going to be touching on that. Of course, we had a very special guest on the phone yesterday, the Haringey manager, who we weren't sure what was going to happen there, but of course that game is now going to be replayed between Haringey and Yeovil, which is the right decision. They had the draw yesterday for the first round. In fact, we're going to touch on the draw as well. Some interesting teams. Probably the biggest story from the draw was Chichester, who have got a bye into the second round. The reason being that, of course, Bury aren't in the competition. So there was going to be one team that got the bye, and I think it's £32,000 or £36,000 that they get for getting into the second round. So effectively, Chichester have won the lottery.
Well, there you go. I mean, it's a good day in Chichester. You don't get to say that very often.
It's always a good day in Chichester. Jamie Carragher has apologised to Evra for Suarez T-shirts after fullback racially abused by Uruguayan, which we're going to touch on that. In fact, we've got some audio in regards to this. Let's listen to that right now.
Well, there's no doubt we made a massive mistake. That was obvious. Maybe I can look at myself now and say, you didn't have the courage to say, me as an individual, I'm not wearing it. Because once the team has decided, or the squad, or, so I look at myself, you didn't have enough courage, really. And probably other players in the... I don't think everyone within Liverpool Football Club thought we were doing what was right.
That's interesting to hear that apology. I mean, obviously a long time after the event, but we're going to go into more detail onto that as well later in the show, of course. A big page on the back page as well this morning, a big piece on the back page is in regards to the heightened dementia risk linked to footballers.
Yes, exactly. I mean, this is something that I think we already knew, really, but it's nice to have it, I suppose, in black and white now. The footballers are 3.5 times more likely to die of brain diseases. The FA is pushing for concussion subs.
Yeah.
And they want independent doctors at the games. It also comes off the back of a study where footballers back in the day of the heavy ball are now disproportionately getting dementia.
Well, this concerns me because I got a really bad concussion when I played. And every now and then I do have little lapses of memory and sometimes forget names. I mean, it's one of the classic things I do, Derek. It's really, it's been really tough. No, it does worry me a bit because they're saying that this has come 15 years too late. And I kind of feel like it has because there are so many players that do suffer with this. Patrick, back in the game. There are so many players that do suffer with this. And it is interesting now that it's coming forward. I know Chris Sutton's got an interesting piece in the paper as well, talking about it. Of course, his dad suffered with this. Jeff Astle being a classic example as well.
I think the shocking thing about this is that there have been numerous cases in the past of footballers from a slightly bygone era suffering with dementia, which we now, I think it's almost unequivocal, you can say that it's related to heading the heavy ball. And the PFA doesn't really seem to be stepping in to help them. And I find that bizarre because I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying that at one point there was a £1 million piece of artwork on the wall at the PFA headquarters. And you think, well, what could that money be used for to help people who now have to go through care and things like that? As a result of heading the heavy ball.
This is it. You go to IKEA, you pick up a great piece of art for £22.
Yeah, exactly.
And then what do you do with the rest of the money?
Well, you give it to the footballers who are suffering.
That's your point.
That's literally what I'm saying.
I really should have read into that, shouldn't I? It was very obvious in hindsight.
Maybe this is all the head. Goes, lads, I've solved it. I've got a real bargain here. Yeah, it looks just like a Banksy, but it's not. Right, thank you, Rich.
I feel like I should have been on track what you're saying there. Maybe that's all the head injuries I got. Maybe this proves the point. But no, it is a big page a big piece in the back pages today. Lots more going on in the world of sport as well, Mr. Christys.
Yes, absolutely. It's getting hairy, that's right. Mauricio Pochettino has admitted that for the first time his job is under threat at Tottenham, but he's not going to go grey over it, he says. I understand the business. I'm 47. Look, why do you think I don't have white hair? Because I don't pay attention to these kind of rumours.
Touching on age, Arsene Wenger, 70 today.
Well done.
Do you want to wish him a happy birthday?
Happy birthday, Arsene.
Okay, well, there you go. We covered that. What else is going on in the back pages? I know we're going to go into detail on the Arsenal game very shortly. But there's a few interesting stories
There's obviously
today.
quite a good look ahead to England playing New Zealand in the semi-finals. And I don't know about you, but I'm pretty worried about all this.
Go on.
Well, they're very, very good, aren't they?
Probably, in fact, they are the best.
They are?
They are. They're the
now
best.
We have to play them.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate, really.
It is. And the impression that I'm getting is that we need to be 100%. They need to be less than 100%. If they're 100%, we lose.
Yeah, pretty much, I think. Yeah.
Which is a general consensus. We're, of course, going to get our expert Kieran in at some point today to maybe give a bit more insight than that, because I appreciate that wasn't the most insightful thing to say.
Then essentially, if we play better than them, we stand a good chance of winning.
If we score more points than them, I think we'll win.
Yeah, well, that's usually the way. And I mean, you know rugby, I know rugby, we all know rugby, and I think it's fair to say that if we do score more points than them, there is every chance that we will win.
Well, there you go. Covered that one. Right, we will move on.
How do you reckon that they're preparing for arguably the biggest game in their history?
Well, if it were me, I would probably go to Disneyland.
Well, that's just as well, actually, Rich, because that's what Eddie Jones has done. Eddie Jones is taking his squad to Disneyland this week, ahead of their showdown with the All Blacks. And I think it just presents these wonderful images, doesn't it, of these massive, burly men, peak physical condition, look, black eyes, broken arms, all this kind of stuff, gnarly cauliflower ears, just fighting over which kind of Disney character's stuffed toy that they're going to take on the roller coaster.
Having pictures with every Disney character.
Oh, I'd love
That'd be brilliant for social media, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, just Owen Farrell with Mickey.
I went once. I went once to Disney with my parents.
Yeah.
I've been a couple of times actually, but I was very young.
Yeah.
And I was doing the whole get pictures with all the characters like Pluto and all those people. Then my dad was absolutely adamant that we had to get one with the Little Mermaid.
Okay. Now you understand.
Ariel, yeah.
Right.
And now I'm of a certain age, I can understand why he wanted to be in the picture as well.
Right, yeah. That's a little bit concerning of Dad there. Pirates of the Caribbean, that was always my favourite. For anyone that's been to Disney, what a ride.
Right.
Oh, it just takes you on a journey of discovery.
Yeah.
I hope the rugby players do that. I would certainly highly recommend. All right, plenty to come in today's show. We're going to be talking a bit of business next. We're going to go into a bit more detail on the Arsenal game too. 16 minutes to 7.
This is Love Sport.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. This means that travelling to the EU will change. You'll need to check online if your passport is valid for travel to Europe. If you're planning on driving, you'll need to check if you have the right documents to drive. and make sure your travel insurance covers all your healthcare needs. To keep your trip on track, check what you need to do at gov.uk/Brexit. Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October.
Home insurance is vital. You don't want to end up paying through the nose when something goes wrong. But are you being charged way too much for your home cover? Are your insurance premiums simply too much to bear? It doesn't have to be that way. A spokesmansaid.com is a price comparison website that trawls the internet to find the best deal for you. Don't pay the price for not shopping around. Visit a spokesmansaid.com and start saving today.
Spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
You probably think you're pretty good at multitasking behind the wheel. I mean, you have to multitask to drive. So what's wrong with checking your phone? The thing is, your brain simply doesn't work that way. Even a quick look at a message, or firing off a quick reply, affects your concentration and makes you less able to react to hazards. If you use a mobile phone while driving, you're 4 times more likely to crash. Think. Put your phone away.
There are fewer than 10 days to get ready for Brexit. Find out what you need to do to prepare now at gov.uk/Brexit.
Monday is a truly awful way to spend 1/7 of your life, I guarantee it.
Love sport.
Love Sport Breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you until 10. As always, you can get in touch. 08 70 20 558 on WhatsApp, at Love Sport Radio on the socials. And we're on YouTube too. And I see we've got a message in at one of our regulars, Clive. Morning, boys. Apparently, Chichester are going to give bury some of the money they've earned for going straight through. This is true. I've heard this. They're donating to a foundation of sorts, I believe. So fair play to Chichester on that. Thanks for the info, Clive. It's now time for this. Do you know what? Yesterday, we had an extra verse. You know why that was? We had a different producer. He actually went in, and it turns out that song really gets going in the next verse. It does, which we haven't had this morning, but what we do have
That
is...
second verse is filth, isn't it?
I mean, I'll tell you who else is filth. Not this guy. Chris Bailey, founder of FinancialOrbit.com. Morning, Chris.
What an entry. My goodness, where was that going to go?
It gets better every day, doesn't it?
I'm just wondering where the third verse goes. I mean, I just assume that you have to just bleep it out effectively because of the left field words, basically.
Yeah, indeed. Well, maybe tomorrow we'll be blessed with that.
If you play the third verse backwards, actually, it incites you to do some pretty terrible things.
Right.
So, we better not.
We better not do that. I'll tell you, let's just crack on with the business instead. Small firms need to report gender pay gaps, says senior bank official.
Yeah, that's right. This came from the Bank of England, so, august, important organisation. They observed that, and it's a fair observation, that actually many small companies, where, of course, most people are actually employed in small companies, is not actually in these massive companies. Most of these small companies, we don't get data on things like equality of pay and gender pay gap and stuff like that, because at the moment, because of reasons of simplification and whatever else, they don't have to supply such information. So the Bank of England is suggesting that more small and medium-sized businesses get kind of pulled into this data because it is useful and insightful, clearly, for all of us, employees or employers, as relevant. So that's their suggestion. As I run a small business, so, I know what it's like. You get more bits of paper and you think to yourself, oh, blooming heck, you don't want to fill that in. But, it's probably for the greater good, I'd say. A bit more information for the accountants and bean counters to consider.
Indeed. I see another story here. Up to 12,000 Asda workers are at risk losing their jobs. Let me guess, robots?
Well, you'd have thought so, wouldn't you? But you've got to love a sort of a robot sort of filling the shelves or something like that. But actually, what it is, it's all to do with flexibility of working. Now, do you remember those martini ads? You probably don't. Certainly, Patrick's way too young for this. Obviously, for a martini as well. But for these martini ads of the 70s, I think, so anytime, any place, anywhere. And the Asda workers have said that the latest suggestion from the Asda bosses is a bit of a sort of a martini offer, because essentially they want them to be very flexible, be available to work at different times, yes, get paid more per hour, but lose things such as extra holiday pay and stuff like that. So, is this working in the 21st century? We all want to shop at various times. We want Asda and other supermarkets to be open, all day on a Sunday, up until midnight, whatever times it might be. Maybe this is the flip side of it. Anyway, if the workers don't sign up, then potentially they get the boot. So hence the headlines about 12,000 job losses and the like. So, yeah, difficult one, really, because I think as consumers, we all want to spend at different times of the day, be it online or be it in a physical store. But obviously to do that, we need workers there. So bit of a toughie.
Indeed. This next story interests me, actually, given that I am an electric car owner, doing my bit for the environment. But apparently,
how many miles does yours do, mate? Electrically?
It's irrelevant.
It's 25, isn't it? That's the number.
On a good day, I think it's 23, actually.
Right,
but
okay.
Anyway, but yeah, me doing my bit for the environment. Electric cars. They're going to get green number plates, though.
No.
Well, that's right. We apparently nicked the idea from Canada, which apparently has them. You thought the Canadians would have like a maple leaf on theirs or something. But anyway, they've got green number plates, kind of differentiates it. Means that if you're sort of parking in the appropriate green parking zone or revving up some, or maybe not revving up some special lane of a road or something, you can be spotted whether you should be there or not. Not a bad idea. Not quite sure though what it means though for those not having green cars, in the sense that if they're getting their own special colour, what colour should kind of diesel and petrol have? I've been thinking about this. It should be black or something, sort of not black with white lettering, or just black with black lettering, and then police can't actually spot what your registration is.
Is this them just trying to shame me into getting an electric car? Is that it?
Essentially, that's right, because of course the government wants to, by 2040 is the target, but some people say it should be before then, sort of 2035 or something like that. So essentially, this is what it is. It's a bit like anything, is it? It's like a mobile. Remember when the mobiles came and you had the bricks and stuff? When obviously you started to look a bit of a prat with a brick next to your head, then you obviously upgraded to the next phone and so on and so on. This is sort of a similar thing.
Yeah, indeed. And Petra, I'd never want to make you feel bad, just because you don't care about our future, just because I do. I'm not going to shame you just because I'm the one out there working my hardest to make sure we have a future. I'm not going to shame you. China overtakes USA in rankings of world's wealthiest people.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, apparently 100 million Chinese now are in the world's top 10% of the world's wealthiest, compared to only 99 million of Americans. Now, obviously, you can judge whether these figures are totally accurate, whether they've been fiddled in some way or whatever else. But, it's a sign of the times, and no great surprise to me that whenever you go to China, I mean, two things are very obvious. First thing is that if you don't have the right apps on your phone, you're absolutely you can't do anything basically. And the second thing is, there's lots of Chinese people. Yeah. So on the basis that there's lots of them, and they're doing lots of very clever things with their mobile phones, which I can't quite figure out what they are. They're going to get rich.
Great stuff. Rich, just like you, Mr. Chris Bailey, founder of financialorbit.com. Thank you as ever.
A pleasure.
Great stuff. Chris Bailey there.
Didn't deny it, did he?
He didn't. No, he knows. He's now going back to his bed of cash.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, what a life. Wow. What a guy. Let's talk more about Arsenal, if that's okay with you, because not a particularly good night for them. It's interesting now how the league table is taking shape. Of course, they've now fallen out of the top four. Look, we're still so early in the season. Should we be looking into this too much?
Well, hang on a minute. Arsenal are top of the table, mate.
What table?
Arsenal are top of the table.
What table are they top of?
Diving.
Ah.
So 7 players have been booked for Arsenal for diving, 4 for Spurs, Bournemouth, United, Newcastle and Southampton all have 2.
Right, let's talk about that, because Saka, wasn't it, that went through and was accused of diving. In fact, he's booked for diving. Yeah. Now, I've watched this several times, and Saka's been clever, but it's not a dive. So this is my opinion. He's gone through. Has he looked for it? Yes, he has. Has he been tripped? Yeah, he has. I mean, it's one of those decisions that I think some people do give it. I'm sure some refs give it. I just don't. I think it's one where you just let it go. It goes for a goal kick, and you just play the goal kick and play on. Because I think he's always going to fall over in that situation. Whether you give a pen or not is up to the referee. But it's not a dive.
VAR.
I think VAR. I think it would have gone to VAR. So VAR would have looked at it, and I think they made the right decision. But again, it would have been the right decision without it being a booking, because he's gone through. He's quite clever, but I don't think that's necessarily worthy of a booking, that he's kind of semi-dragged his leg to make sure that he's gone down. but at the same time, he was going to go down under the pressure. Also, I just don't think that you had enough control of the ball or that there was enough contact to make it a penalty. But it was a bit of a contentious one.
There's a sketch with Fry and Laurie where basically he's a football coach. And he's got all the kids there, and he just takes the ball and just boots it into the next field and goes, "You will never ever need that. Just get in the box and just throw yourself on the ground. Come on now, after me, kids. 1, 2, 3. Throw yourself on the ground."
And that's what football's come to.
Modern football. Game's gone to the dogs, mate.
There you go. Well, let's hear from Chris Wilder after the game. He praised his Sheffield United team.
We can't open up. You know, I think it's absolutely crazy that people think that we can just open up against Arsenal. You saw 2 or 3 times first half how quickly they countered and what ability some of their players have got, where they've skipped round our challenges as if they were not even there. So we had to make sure we had got the balance of in and out of possession, and I think we did that. You know, obviously getting ahead gave us something to hang on to, and we defended manfully. And as I said, Dean's made a couple of saves really, but we've had a couple of chances as well. So, you know, maybe it's just tip from the Liverpool performance and the game where we maybe should have got something, and the other way tonight where we deserved to get something.
Indeed, Chris Wilder there giving his thoughts on the game yesterday, and Patrick's found something very amusing on the TV.
Doing a bit of today's horse racing coverage on Sky, and there's some kind of like pre-race event, which is just even smaller jockeys on Shetland ponies.
It's kids on Shetland ponies. It's very sweet, isn't it? You found it hilarious. It is quite funny to watch, but it's quite sweet at the same time.
Magnificent. I'd rather watch that.
Yeah, that would be more entertaining. Yeah. Chris Wilder turning into a bit of a tactical genius. They showed actually at the game yesterday, they love all these stats, but they showed one of these like heat maps where it shows where the defenders go, the centre-backs go, and it is this whole overlapping defenders. It's going to catch on, you know.
Well, just talk us through it.
Defenders overlap. There you go. No, do you know what? But no, it's right. It's quite clever because you're always looking for an overload, and he touched on it there. And the Arsenal, of course, when they're pushing for towards the end, ultimately looking for an overload. But every time you look for the overload, you're then going to leave yourself weak at the back because if, of course, you lose the ball, then like Man United did to Liverpool, suddenly you're on the counter attack and you're going to have the overload the other way because they've committed men forward. Well, look. Sheffield United looking to do this. It's like, ordinarily, this is where goalkeepers have become so much more a part of the game now, is that they're always the free man. So, if you're in trouble, often you can go back to the goalkeeper. So, of course, they've become part of the team, hence why their distribution is so important. Similarly, defenders, no one's going to track an overlapping or an underlapping defender. And this is the beauty of it, or where it's so clever, is that you expect the fullbacks to overlap the wingers. You don't expect the centre-backs to do it. The striker's not going to follow the centre-back into that. So I just think, again, they're creating clever overloads, which is allowing them to get more quality into the box.
Oh, well, there you go, Rich. Well done. That's quite a thorough explanation.
Thank you. Something else of interest last night. Freddie Ljungberg got booked by Mike Dean. The first time that's happened since November 2006. It was quite amusing.
Fantastic.
It was quite amusing. Saka goes down. Freddie Ljungberg wasn't happy. Mike Dean goes over. And there was something nice about the moment. As much as Freddie Ljungberg would have been upset in the moment, there was something a bit like, oh, that's quite cool.
Rolling back the years.
Stay with us. 3 minutes to 7.
This is Love Sport.
When your kids are ill, you just want to help them feel better. But you don't always need antibiotics. Get advice from your local pharmacy or search NHS Choices.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. Brexit will bring changes that affect businesses in many ways, particularly if you buy from EU suppliers, sell to EU customers, provide services to EU clients, and receive customer data from other businesses in the EU. Businesses need to prepare. Find out how at gov.uk/Brexit. Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October.
Hi, I'm Barry. I'm a retired school bursar from Chingford. I thought I was paying too much for my energy and went onto a spokesmansaid.com and found that I could reduce my costs overall by £568 per annum, and I'm very grateful for that help.
With a spokesmansaid.com, fighting for you, saving you money.
Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident, and save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, Check your tyres, fuel and oil. Highways England, connecting the country.
Love Sport Breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you until 10 a.m. As ever, you can get in touch. We enjoy you getting in touch. You can do on YouTube, as so many of you have done. I see several watching now. Just simply go on YouTube, type in Love Sport Breakfast. You can get in touch on WhatsApp or give us a call. 0208 70 20 558 is the number. We are on the socials as well, at Love Sport Radio. Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. We've got plenty coming up in the next hour. We're going to be speaking to Simon Rose, the Gooner. Of course, Arsenal did go down last night to Sheffield United. We'll be getting his thoughts on that. Are Arsenal in a little bit of trouble? They have slipped out of the top four now. We'll also be speaking to George Belshaw, tennis journalist for metro.co.uk. Of course, Andy Murray, incredible Andy Murray, won his first singles title since 2017.
You did it, Andy.
You did it, Andy.
You did it, Andy.
It kind of makes a bit of a mockery of the video they put out to pretty much announce his retirement.
Yeah.
Not so long ago.
I hope they just wheel out exactly the same one in a couple of years' time.
Yeah. They might as well. Cut and paste.
Yeah.
Stay with us. Lots to come. 7 o'clock.
On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport News.
From the Sky News Centre at 7, police are to fly to the US to interview a diplomat's wife about the death of a British teenager. Anne Sakoulas fled the UK after a crash in August. Matt Steele has more.
Detectives from Northamptonshire are expected to confirm later they'll meet Mrs Sakoulas as part of their inquiry. She's suspected of knocking 19-year-old Harry Dunn off his motorbike near an RAF base where her husband was based before claiming diplomatic immunity. News of the imminent interview has surprised the victim's family, who say they were told police had completed their investigation.
Boris Johnson will attempt to fast-track legislation to get his Brexit deal through the Commons in just 3 days. The debate on the bill starts later, with ministers hoping it'll pass all of its stages by the end of Thursday. A man's been arrested on suspicion of murdering 2 teenagers at a house party in Milton Keynes. Dom Ansah and Ben Gillam-Rice, who were both 17, were stabbed to death on Saturday. Despite the scandal surrounding his wearing of blackface makeup, Justin Trudeau appears to have won a second term as Canada's Prime Minister.
From coast to coast to coast, tonight Canadians rejected division and negativity.
Projections suggest his Liberal Party will win the most seats in Parliament, but not enough for an overall majority. Donald Trump's tweeted his congratulations. Sheffield United beat Arsenal 1-0 in the Premier League last night to move into the top half of the table. Lys Mousset scored the winner in the first half at Bramall Lane. Arsenal missed the chance to go third. They stay in 5th place. And Caroline Flack's been named the most dangerous celebrity name to look for online, as cybersecurity firms found searches for the Love Island host generate results linking to risky websites. Game of Thrones star Maisie Williams and comedian James Corden are also on the list. That's the latest. I'm Kat Suave.
This is Love Sport.
Time is money. Or so money says. Well, money. I know you like to dictate every hour of every day, add to my to-do list and throw the odd spanner in the works. But not anymore. This is my business, and I run it on my watch. I'm in control now, money, and times are changing. Save time with instant business invoicing, now on the Barclays app. Search Barclays Business and make money work for you.
Must have a Barclays business account. T's and C's apply.
Love Sport Radio. On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport Breakfast with Richard Lee and Patrick Christys.
Morning. Love Sport Radio, Love Sport Breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys has touched on the top stories this morning. Arsenal have fallen out the top 4 with a 1-0 defeat to Sheffield United. Heightened dementia risk has been linked to footballers. In fact, we're going to be talking to someone about that in about 15 minutes' time. Carragher apologises to Ever for Suarez t-shirts after fullback racially abused by Uruguayan. Millwall appoint Gary Rowett as manager. Haringey and Yeovil is to be replayed, and Van Dijk joins 7 Liverpool players on the Ballon d'Or shortlist. I am joined by the one, the only, Mr. Patrick Christys.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. Let's talk more Arsenal.
Okay.
I think it makes sense. It's not been a particularly good... it's not a particularly good evening for them. It was always going to be tough to go to Bramall Lane. I think it's fair to say that Sheffield United so far, for the teams that have or gained promotion, they have been the most impressive. Would you agree?
You rave about their overlapping centre-backs, don't you? You think this is essentially the future of football.
I rave about that. I think that Chris Wilder is onto something. It's a largely British-based squad. Now, I'm not saying that as a pro-Britain, but what he's got is he's got a certain mentality within that squad. You're smiling.
Just see you
I just
every
wait
morning.
for you to sing Rule Britannia. That was kind of
No. I'll wheel it out later. But I just always got this image of you just before you come into work every morning, just hoisting a Union Jack on your front lawn. You know.
This is what we do.
Just go into your front room and it's just a load of like memorial plates with Diana's face on it. A load of ones that just like HMS Victory or something like that.
Yeah.
One of a miserable Argentinian soldier.
This is it. This is how we roll. But it is a largely British squad. Now, why I say that and why that's important is the mentality that you see from Sheffield United. Like they work hard. They do work so hard. You wouldn't look at their team and say there's superstars throughout the team because there's not. In terms of budget, it's reasonably small. They have got some very good players. Interestingly, only conceded 7 goals to this point after 9 games. Dean Henderson earning all sorts of plaudits. I mean, of course, he made that mistake against Liverpool. Other than that, I think he's been superb. Excellent again yesterday. Plays with such confidence. Very much your modern goalkeeper. I think he'll give David De Gea a run for his money, by the way, next season.
Do you reckon?
Yes, he will. He's just... more so for the mindset for me. Like, he is so confident in what he does, but he knows he's got the ability to back it up. And I'm aware that he works really hard as well. He's not one that takes it for granted. He grasps at his game. And again, he was brilliant last night. Made a great save up in the top corner and annoyed me because it was a classic commentary of, the keeper will expect to save that. I was like, he's dived fully, top corner, great spring, power, positioning. It is going in the top corner and he's got 2 hands, made a brilliant save. And I would have been disappointed if he let that one in. Well, okay. But similarly, it's a good save, so give them some credit. Anyway, I've had my little rant for the morning. But no, Sheffield United, I like them. I just think that it's not one where, like with Norwich, okay, Norwich beat City, but you could see, and you can still see there are certain weaknesses, major weaknesses within that team. Certainly defensively, they're going to concede too many goals, you feel. Villa have come up, and I think they're now starting to really adapt to life in the Premier League. Of course, you'd expect them to do well, given how much they spent. But for me, Sheffield United, from what I saw yesterday, they're going to be absolutely fine this season, which I think a lot of people predicted they'd go down. They're not going down. Chris Wilder, very, very good manager, and he's proven it. By the way, here's the complete difference then, where you've got a Chris Wilder and you've got an Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. 2 ends of the spectrum for me, where you've got, and even put Frank Lampard in this at the moment because he's still very new into management. As much as Solskjaer has been at Mulder and he has been at Cardiff, he's still I suppose an amateur, that's the wrong word, a novice.
Do you not think when Solskjaer's interviews, he talks like he's been a manager for years?
He's starting to.
Like a top flight manager. Like
he's starting to.
He's like, and of course when you lose how it is when you lose the players to international duty and this, that, and I think... Right. Do you know how it is when you lose players to international duty?
That was only a second international duty that you've had, Ollie.
Yeah. No, I mean, you all know how it is, of course. You've only got to juggle this. Ollie, you've been doing this for 25 minutes, mate.
Well, this is it, right? So for me, it's the basic mind games that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is playing at the moment, which he comes out the other day. Who does he praise? The referee. And it's a little bit cringe for me, a little bit too... Whereas Chris Wilder, he is your classic Northern Brit. He just is what he is. They get promoted.
Oh, Britannia.
But the point is, he's done it for years at every level. He's had to graft. He's had to grind. He's not a manager that everybody heard of 10 years ago. He's not a player that, everyone was like, oh, Chris Wilder's going to go on and manage in the Premier League. No one said that. But what he has done, he's learnt his trade inside and out. And you can see he's getting the very best out of these players.
Yeah. I mean, you say he's a classic Northern Brit. I mean, I think if you go on TripAdvisor, the top tourist attraction in Sheffield's a Mecca Bingo. So.
Which he's got a subscription to.
Which he obviously does, yeah.
Here you go. Sheffield United's goalkeeper and 3 central defenders had only 21 appearances in the top flight before this season. The question is then, does it prove you don't need experience to be a good defender in the Premier League? And by the way, all those 21 appearances were from one player. just to make that note. Yes. So out of those 4 players that we've mentioned, they all came from one player. But it sounds good that they've only got 21 between them. All of them were Chris Basham. Chris Basham, of course, got the 21 appearances. So, look, this is where I guess you ride the crest of a wave to an extent when you get promoted, and you soon see whether it's something that's going to last. But from what I saw yesterday, I just think they've got too much to be in trouble.
Just seems like you need to get your points on the board early. You don't want to be scratching around at squeaky bum time at the end of the season. Get them done and dusted. It's like the Charlton effect at the minute, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Who I'm going to watch tomorrow night. I'm looking forward to that.
Just on Charlton?
Yes.
Do you reckon they'll celebrate if they go up? Because isn't it just going to be like, oh, what have we done? Oh, no, we weren't supposed to do this.
Well, this is it. You look at Charlton at the moment, of course, big win at the weekend derby, and it relates to Sheffield United again because they're riding the crest of a wave from last season. Similarities with both. Excellent managers, both of them. They've got a certain way in which they play, a certain work rate as to how they operate, and there are massive similarities between the two.
Okay, look, I just want to move on quickly and have a chat about something that's dominating a lot of the back pages today, and this is the dementia shock that has emerged. So footballers are 3.5 times more likely to die of brain disease. There's some really insightful new research that's come out, actually. Basically, just looking into the effects of heading the ball repeatedly on footballers. So the FA and the PFA announced in 2017 they will be co-funding this, and it's a study titled Football's Influence on Lifelong Health and Dementia Risk, so catchy title. And researchers compared the causes of death for 7,676 men, that's my lucky number, men who played professional football in Scotland and were born between 1900 and 1976, and they compared them with 23,000 people in the rest of the population, and it found that they were 3.5 times more likely to die from neurodegenerative disease.
Yeah, well, we're actually going to be talking to Dr. Carol Routledge, Director of Research at Alzheimer's Research UK. We're going to be talking to her in about 5 minutes' time because it is a big story today, and there's a few interviews in there. Chris Sutton's come out. It's something I'm really interested in. I mentioned earlier I had a concussion, quite a bad concussion, and of course the amount of head injuries that you get as a goalkeeper, the amount of times you save the ball with your head, get it smashed at you from 5 yards, and you wonder if it has an impact. I definitely have bits of memory loss from time to time.
We're going to reenact that later, actually, for our YouTube listeners. So make sure you do tune in, watch us on YouTube. The entire last hour of the show is just going to be me thundering balls into Rich's face.
So I'm just going to lie on my side, and Patrick from 5 yards is going to kick it as hard as he can.
Yeah.
Try and hit me this time.
We're going to do our own study, actually.
Yes.
And it's just a one-man study. We'll just have to wait about 40 years for the effects to kick in.
We'll see what happens. I am worried about the memory loss, though, Paul. It's something that's really, really bothered me. Let's go back to Arsenal. Carragher apologising to Evra.
I think Silva and Mendy, he made I think it certainly wasn't Luis Suarez, but he's made a mistake. Okay. But even Man City's first reaction is to actually come out and support their mate. You understand what I mean? Raheem came out, Pep Guardiola. Yeah. And I think, I'm not in any way condoning with Luis Suarez, it's wrong. Yeah. But clubs, no matter what incident it is, racism, assault, different things, whatever go on, that is the first reaction, really. And as I said, apologies, we got it massively wrong.
Oh, I know, because...
I'll tell you what, there's a little quiver in his voice there towards the end, wasn't there?
Gosh.
They got it massively wrong. Of course, this is they supported Suarez at the time, which, I mean, in hindsight, supporting Suarez probably, I don't know.
If you think back to it, actually, it was quite shocking. It's interesting, isn't it? Because I was thinking this the other day. So Little Britain, you couldn't make that now, could you? And that didn't seem like that long ago, but that would be deemed deeply offensive.
But to who?
Black people, gay people,
right?
Ethnic minorities in general, the disabled, fat people, the elderly. Actually, in one
you
point,
make a good point. Actually, now I think about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of quite deeply offensive.
Okay, this
stuff
kind of moves on to something completely different. But you actually think of a lot of comedians gone by. Of course, like the majority of acts just aren't allowed anymore. Like it's not okay anymore.
No, it's not, and it is a little bit ridiculous. Also, I was watching Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
And
great film.
Yeah, it is a great film. And there's a scene in that. No, it's not true. Ace Ventura, equally good film.
It's also very
There's
good.
a scene in that where he like kisses a bloke and then like sets fire to all of his clothes and he's rocking back and forward. And I remember watching it, I was like, wow, this is not okay.
This is not okay anymore.
Yeah, but my point is this. So that since we've moved on a little bit, there's still massive issues with racism, don't get me wrong, but the idea, I think, that a player could be facing a ban or some kind of recrimination for allegedly racially abusing another one, and then your entire team comes out wearing shirts with his name on it. I don't think we could do that anymore.
No.
Rightly so.
It's kind of what
I didn't mean that like, oh, the world's gone mad. I mean, if you can't support a racist through the medium of a T-shirt, I mean, what can you do?
What can you do?
What can you do?
PC gone mad. This is it, though, right? That line, there's more and more things that are now being considered over the line, which is right, of course, because more and more things are deemed offensive, and that's for people that feel that offence. That makes sense. One of the good things is, of course, when I mock you for being, slightly portly. Like, that's still okay, isn't it?
Yes.
So that's not crossed the line yet, so I can really go hard on that as much as I want right now.
Probably could if you saw fit, yeah.
Yeah, that dormant, relaxed muscle that you've got so much of it.
Yeah.
I can keep talking about it, and it's not an issue right now.
I'm going to knock your front teeth out.
It might be, though, one day. I'll be so disappointed if that ever becomes an issue, but, you keep fighting.
When is it that we're going to fight each other for money, Rich?
I mean, whenever you want. I am in. We'll do it for a good charity.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, we could do it for heart disease, because obviously given your... Anyway, we're going to be talking to Dr. Carol Routledge very shortly, Director of Research at Alzheimer's Research UK. Of course, a big story on the back of the papers today in regards to footballers and dementia.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly.
I don't mean to hurt your feet. I'm only playing, you know that.
No, it's all right.
There's so much love for you.
So look, we've been through it. It's a new study that's come out, but there's a lot of reaction to this. A lot of people saying that it's come far too late, and Chris Sutton in the Mail just saying, look, we've kind of known this for 15 years, and in the meantime, how many players have had to suffer with, dementia or neurodegenerative, which is a very difficult word to say, disease, and the PFA aren't really jumping through hoops to help a lot of these players.
Yeah, indeed. Your thoughts on this, by the way, let us know. 0208 70 20 558 on WhatsApp. We see some of you have been in touch on YouTube. We'll try and read as many as we can. Stay tuned. 7:15.
Want to know how I change a light bulb? I hold the bulb and I wait for the world to revolve around me.
Love sport. Premier League, Championship, and fan shows. 7 days a week. We've got your team covered. Love sport.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Full of skill, full of flair, full of desire. Fulham FC is full of fire.
Oh, what a goal!
Be there at Craven Cottage as Fulham continue their surge towards the top of the Sky Bet Championship. Watch the unmissable action live in SW6, home of London's original football club.
Absolutely brilliant.
Grab your tickets now at fulhamfc.com.
Hi, I'm Dean. I work for a successful shipping company in Suffolk. Ever since I heard about people's success with the spokesmansaid.com, I knew I had to investigate for myself. Every time I need to compare car insurance, home insurance and energy bills, I always contact a spokesmansaid.com. This year alone, I saved over £260 on my car insurance and also £585 on my energy bills. I saved big through a spokesmansaid.com, and you could too.
With a spokesmansaid.com, fighting for you, saving you money.
If you see somebody showing any of the signs of a stroke, you don't have to think about it. You just dial 999. Use the FAST test. F. Face. Has their face fallen on one side? Can they smile? A. Arms. Can they raise both arms and keep them there? S. Speech. Is their speech slurred? T. Time. Time to call 999 if you see any one of these signs. Act fast, make the call, dial 999.
This is Love Sport.
Love for breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you until 10 a.m. Now, one of the major stories on the back page today is in regards to dementia for ex-footballers, and someone to go through this with us and give us a bit more insight is Dr. Carol Routledge, Director of Research at Alzheimer's Research UK. Morning, Dr. Carol.
Good morning.
Morning. Keen to hear your thoughts on this. I was telling Patrick, I had quite a bad concussion when I played many years ago. I was out for a few minutes, from what I understand, and have no recollection of the day whatsoever. And of course, years and years of saving footballs with my head, which wasn't the plan, but it often happened. It seems, and I know there's a lot of interesting stories in the back pages, of course, a few big case studies on this, but it's something that's starting to be taken a lot more seriously now.
I think it is something that's been taken a lot more seriously, and this study was commissioned by the FA and the PFA, so that tells you how seriously it is being taken. And basically, it was a study to explore the long-term health impacts of professional football. And so they evaluated the health records of former professional Scottish football players and then compared those to the standard Scottish population, I guess, the non-player population. And essentially what they found was that the players were 3.5 times more likely to die of dementia. So they looked at the records of the ones that had died and found that they were 3.5 times more likely to die of dementia. They did find a significant number of health benefits as well. So actually, former professional football players did live 3.5 years longer. And also they had reduced incidence of lung cancer and ischemic heart disease. So there are significant benefits to exercise as well.
Okay, and this is to do with the heavy ball, isn't it? So modern footballers coming through now, they don't think that there's a link between what they're doing now and dementia. It's more back in the day, is it?
Well, it's very difficult to say it was due to a heavy ball. And in fact, the evidence that is produced from this study doesn't say that. So I guess this study is the starting point. So I think for the first time, this well-conducted study has shown that there is a link between increased dementia risk and playing professional football, at least former professional football. But you're right, at the moment, we don't know how that links to professional football in modern days. We don't know how that links to the amateur game and grassroots football. And we don't know, because this study didn't look, what are the underlying reasons that underpin that finding of increased risk of dementia. And I think that's where we need to go next. We need to start conducting the research which is going to tell us why this increase in dementia risk has been seen.
So rugby and NFL, for a long time, and for obvious reasons, of course, NFL, they're going in headfirst over and over and over again. So you can understand how that's going to have the impact that it does. And I know there's been all sorts of studies into those. Football would be to a much lesser extent, I would assume. And is it as simple as the fact that they're just heading footballs over and over? So centre-backs, for instance, defenders who are forever having to head the ball from long goal kicks, for instance, they're going to be more at risk than, say, a tricky winger who might never have to head the ball because of the position they play?
So again, there's no indication that it is about heading, and you compare it to American football, and actually, boxing is one of the other ones that people have compared it to, and clearly association football is really different from those two sports. And actually, in the study which was conducted by Dr. Willie Stewart, they did look at various positions on the pitch, and they compared the risk of increased dementia for different positions on the pitch, and actually found no difference. So they did see a slight increase in prescriptions for dementia-related illnesses in outfield players compared to goalkeepers, but actually in terms of the risk of the dementia, there was no difference between footballers and outfield players, though I should say, the numbers of goalkeepers they looked at were quite small.
Okay, fair enough. That's good news. You've made me feel much better about the situation. What measures should be taken to protect players from this, do you think?
So
is there much that can be done?
Well, I mean, playing safely. So the FA have reissued their guidance around the safe playing of football, and that includes guidance around concussion and guidance around correctly heading the ball. And as I said, there are huge benefits to playing football, and certainly for children. So getting out and playing football in the park, because of the exercise, because of the social interaction, actually will significantly reduce their risk of dementia. So what we wouldn't want is for everybody to stop going out and playing football, and for parents to have their children not play football. That really is the last thing that they should do. Exercise is really good for you, and until we really understand what is underpinning this increased risk of dementia, I think we should continue to play football safely. We should adhere to the FA's guideline, and we should enjoy it.
Do you think that footballers have been let down a little bit? There's a piece by Chris Sutton in the Mail today saying that he finds it hard to believe that the PFA wouldn't have known that there was a link between it, and he thinks that he thinks that players have been let down by it. Maybe a lack of education on it.
We're really grateful for, I guess, the work that all of the families have done who have people living with dementia. I mean, it is really, really important to move this forward. But actually, it was only recently, 4 years ago, that the information became available that allowed this study to be done. So actually, doing a really well-conducted systematic study just wasn't possible a while ago. But it is now, and I guess the FA and PFA have commissioned this study. It has been done, and now we do know that there is a definitive link between increased risk of dementia and football. And the next step is to try and find out why and what aspects of football, and there are a lot of them, by the way, but what aspects of football really underpin this finding.
Should there be an independent doctor assessing head injuries at football games? Because, of course, you have the club doctor, but you sometimes worry that there might be, say, conflict of interest. But, of course, we've seen a couple of classic examples. I think Hugo Lloris was one, if I remember rightly, where he should have been.
Jan Vertonghen as well.
Jan Vertonghen. So you do wonder whether there is a bit of pressure on the doctor, and of course the fans will want to see the player continue to play. The manager will want to see the player continue to play. So the doctor can be a bit of it can be a difficult position to be put in sometimes. Does it need to be an independent doctor, do you think?
I think it's a really good point, and actually the footballers themselves also want to continue to play, and that's part of it too. But so I do think it's a really good point. I mean, Alzheimer's Research UK are clearly not in a position to say what we think, but I do know that the FA are looking at this, and I think they will reissue additional guidelines on concussion, and this is one of the aspects that they are discussing, and I do think it's a really important point.
And you made an interesting point earlier, so just to clarify that although this is a concern, and of course there'll be more research done into this, they are less likely, ex-footballers are less likely to die of other conditions such as heart disease and some cancers. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So, and that's due to, I guess, the benefits of actually, well, we think it's due to the benefits of actually doing exercise. So yes, the dementia risk is increased. We need to understand that why, but actually overall their life expectancy was slightly longer. And they were less likely to have some of these other conditions. And, various other studies and various other association studies have shown that there is a real beneficial link between exercise and reducing the risk of dementia. So we do need to bear that in mind as well.
And lastly, the PFA and FA, of course, hugely involved in this. So players that then retire, is there, again, anything that can be done for the players that have retired, whether it be regular checks, just to make sure, given that this does look like it could be, there is, like you say, three and a half times more likely for an ex-footballer, should it be something whereby they have yearly checks or something along those lines?
I think, anybody that is concerned should go and seek medical advice. I do think this will attract a significant amount of attention, and I think one of the benefits of that is that hopefully we can really galvanise the funding of research to look into this. So potentially, I guess, football players could join some of those research initiatives. I guess there are a number of different things that potentially that they could do, but certainly if they are concerned in any way, they should seek medical advice.
Great stuff. Dr. Carol Routledge, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dr. Carol Routledge, Director of Research at Alzheimer's Research UK. Very interesting.
Yeah, I do think it is something that has been an oversight for so long, and I worry with the PFA whether or not they're looking at this and they're just trying to tally up all of the compensation claims. They're trying to tally up all the financials of it, and instead of actually maybe helping people, they might be trying to kind of reduce the impact of this study.
I feel sorry for the PFA. PFA have always been great to me. I need to say that first and foremost. Certainly educationally, I really maximise their courses. I did the media and journalism one, which I think has helped me to an extent potentially be sat here opposite your pretty face, Patrick.
Well, I bet that's it, isn't it? I mean, some of them have gone on to appear regularly on Sky Soccer Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Some people have made quite in-depth sporting documentaries, and other people sit next to a fat northerner each morning.
This is true. What would you rather be doing?
No, better not answer that.
No, but do you know what, this is what, and I need to say that because it does frustrate me when it's easy to give any organisation stick and you look at it, they only spend this much on this particular thing. Okay, that's fine. But of course, there are so many different things. In terms of how much money you give to each, it's difficult because there is only so much money there. Now, the PFA do have a lot of money. This is well known. And look, there's a lot from what I understand they have in reserve. And where they then end up putting that, it might be that now they need to put more into this particular area. But personally, I've got absolutely nothing. I think Gordon Taylor's done a brilliant job as far as I'm concerned, and certainly with the different courses I've done, neurolinguistic programming, a couple of courses in that which they effectively funded, my media degree they funded, all the medical help that I've needed over the years, and there's been quite a lot of it, again, they funded, so I've got no issue with the PFA whatsoever.
Does the PFA, on its media course, just teach the players to say things like, it's a game of two halves, I thought it was a great team performance, we go again?
Yeah.
Is it just that over and over again?
Don't forget the boys done good.
Oh, boys done good.
That's like, you have to start with that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it would mean nothing, obviously, any of the perfect hat-trick that I've just scored in that goal where I picked the ball up on the edge of my own box and ran around every single one of the opposition players and stuck it in the back of the net. Would have not been possible if it wasn't for the fans.
No, and if you're putting a post out, hashtag the fans were class.
Hashtag fans were class, yeah.
Fans were class. I'll tell you who is class.
Who?
Our producer, Kieran.
Oh.
He's here.
Oh, what an introduction.
There you go.
Thank you very
You're
much,
welcome.
Rich. Lee, I want to make a point.
Please do.
Because this is all tied in with the Man United-Liverpool game, just in terms of recency bias that I can kind of draw upon. And Daniel James got absolutely smashed in one incident by a Liverpool midfielder. And because of his kind of tendency to dive, the game continued. And I think the referees need to do more on the pitch. They need to be a lot firmer. Now, this new rule where it's up to the referees, it's not up to the players to kick it out of play if there's a person down injured. Now the referees are kind of taking a little bit of a gamble of who's really injured and who's not. And Daniel James, he got seriously clattered in that incident, could have been concussed.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've had that incident in the Wales game where Ryan Giggs has come out and said he was acting.
Yeah.
It doesn't look great.
There's a classic tale, The Boy That Cried Wolf. I don't know if you heard it, Patrick.
Yes, I believe I'm familiar with The Boy Who Cried Wolf.
Kind of that with Daniel James, right? I mean, I could tell the story.
There is that, but it should just stop at all times if you're going to go down injured.
Well,
if this is a proper
right,
issue.
so it is, and this is okay. So this is the counter argument, and I'm aware that certain managers and clubs are worried about this. Is of course because we know a head injury equals play stopped, physio on, then of course people will look to bend the rules. And if you know towards the end of a game that actually, if you're going to
what injury time's for.
Really?
Well,
are we
that's
go
what
there?
referees should do.
So injury time equates to the exact amount of time it should be. Absolutely not. Like, it's ridiculous. The amount of time.
Referees need to do their job better than Rich.
I tell you, no, they do. They absolutely do. No, I'll tell you what. They need
all right.
They need a stop clock. They need a stop. No, do you know what? There was an example. I think it was in. It might have even been the United game where there was a VAR incident. We took ages. Then it comes to the end of the first half and 1 minute goes up. You're like, well, we've just waited 4 minutes for the VAR. It's
that's
nonsense.
Martin Atkinson. That's the best referee in this country.
Right. So no, look, I made the same point for years. I wrote a blog on it actually about 15 years ago on how there should be a stop clock because it's absolute nonsense. Because by the way, that's a great example. Do you know what? 10 minutes to go and I'm the manager of a team. I'm saying to my players, go down with a head injury. That's the one they have to stop the game for. It used to be any injury, but now, of course, it's not. But if you're going to get an injury, get a head injury. So that's the counter-argument, and that's the worry. Sorry, this is really bad advice for any... But that's the counter-argument, is that if you know the rules, then if you're going to get any type of injury, like, again, it's not easy to feign a head injury. That's the only issue, but it could be you go up for a header and you kind of go down a bit awkwardly and hold your head.
Well, I think you've given advice on this show before where if you want to skip PE, you should go for a headache or an earache. So.
Yeah, that can lead to
What's the best bit of the head to make sure that you get
right on the temple, if you can. No, do you know what? That is a true story. I had a lot of headaches when I was a child, and that did lead to me having a brain scan, which thankfully was absolutely fine. Probably a waste of NHS resources, which I've apologised to you for. I've apologised to the nation for.
Well, no, it's all right, actually. I touched on it in my latest blog.
29 minutes to 8.
Love sport. There are fewer than 10 days to get ready for Brexit. Find out what you need to do to prepare now at gov.uk/Brexit.
It's cancer, they said. My first thought, let's just say it wasn't money, but time off work for treatment and trips to the hospital, paying the mortgage, and the cost of living doesn't go away just because you're living with cancer. And Macmillan can help with that too. My advice? Take their advice. Soon as. I did.
Macmillan. Right there with you. Search Macmillan Money Worries.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Whoa! Look how much saturated fat is in these chocolate biscuits. It's surprising how much is in our food and drinks. For us kids, eating too much saturated fat can lead to harmful fat building up inside, which we can't see, increasing the risk of heart disease or stroke when we get older. So be food smart. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app and start making healthier choices today.
There are many things a mother can pass on to her baby. Her smile, her eye colour, and her immunity to whooping cough. Whooping cough is a very dangerous illness for young babies, and at the moment it's spreading fast. A simple vaccination during your pregnancy can help to protect your baby in their first weeks. Please speak to your GP, nurse, or healthcare professional and pass on your immunity.
This is Love Sport.
Love Sport Breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you until 10 a.m. Now, of course, we've spoken a lot about Arsenal this morning, but there are more games this evening. The Champions League is back in action, and Tottenham are taking on Red Star Belgrade. Or do you want to try and pronounce the actual name of what they are called now?
Absolutely not, no.
No? In fact, I see the BBC have actually just gone with Red Star Belgrade. They haven't even attempted to call them what they're actually called
what
now.
What are they actually called?
Well, I don't know. There's lots of Zs in it. There's a couple of Vs. I don't think you can actually pronounce it. So let's just call them Red Star Belgrade. Anyway, Tottenham do face Red Star Belgrade. Of course, a big game for Spurs. They currently find themselves 5 points off the top in the Champions League group, which is quite a long way after 2 games. But they are, of course, behind Red Star Belgrade. So Tottenham on 1 point after their 2 games. Red Star Belgrade on 3 points, a win and a loss. So it's a game that Spurs have to win.
Yes, it definitely is. Bayern Munich are top of the group on 6 points. Red Star, Olympiacos, then Spurs are joint bottom with Olympiacos. So clearly some improvement to be made there. Hopefully they can get everyone firing. And Harry Kane is in training yesterday. He's been pictured in the Mail looking really sharp. So fingers crossed Spurs can do the business.
Yeah, and of course Man City also in action tonight. They're facing Atalanta, who of course are doing well in the Italian league. So I mean, look, again, we'd expect City to get through this. The one for me, though, Tottenham, and again, Maurizio Pochettino, lots of interviews with Maurizio Pochettino over the last day or two, and I think he's aware that he is under a little bit of pressure now. He made a point, actually, in his Sky Sports News conference, saying that he's not got grey hairs. In fact, he's got he's got a real full head of hair, hasn't he?
He has.
It's incredible the amount of hair he's got.
Yes.
Like, you've got in fact, that's something I'll give you. You've got an incredible head of hair, Patrick.
Thank you, mate.
Really good. And, like, his is up there with yours, I'd say.
Yeah. Well, that's something that we've got in common.
Yes, indeed. Kieran Wellington has joined us for
yes, I
the first time in the studio today.
First time in the studio, and it's because this is the back page seat. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just strolling through the back pages, and I understand it's the business. So Pochettino, I am 47, and look, why do you think that I don't have white hair? Just for men.
Just for men, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, what a stupid question.
Because it is an incredible colour that he's got, and it seems to have changed over the years.
Yeah.
This chestnut brown that he's now got is...
His weight fluctuates quite a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah. Why is that, Patrick?
Well, I would say potentially it's mood dependent.
Okay.
And so I personally have a tendency to eat my feelings, and I have a lot of feelings.
Fantastic.
Well, yeah, Poch always comes back really tanned in the summer and really refreshed, and then perhaps he doesn't grey, he just puts on weight.
Gradually deteriorates.
So
over
actually,
the season.
instead of saying, well, you haven't got white hair, Poch, you look great, perhaps we should say, well, let's weigh you from last week.
It's funny, Patrick went on holiday to Croatia, came back. Do you remember what the day he came back, Kieran? So refreshed, bubbly, bouncy, and with every day... with every day, it just gradually deteriorates.
Yeah.
Hey, you and me both. Look, getting up at 4:30 in the morning, it's not easy. Sorry, Kieran.
No, that's absolutely fine, Rich.
nearly-
Your personal vendetta with Patrick is absolutely nothing to do with
you know,
this.
I'm really aware I'm coming for you today, and I don't know why. I don't know why this is. You know, you have days suddenly where, like when you're a child and you pick on a friend and you can't help it, but you just keep doing it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's called bullying, I guess.
It is, actually. That's what that is, yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'll stop right now, okay? That's the end of it. I'm going to be really nice to you.
This is such a strange game, really, for Tottenham, because this is a game, when we looked at the fixtures when they came out, our eyes would have flicked over it. But it's actually become a really crucial game for Spurs.
Well, they are. I mentioned they're obviously 5 points off Bayern Munich, which isn't necessarily who they need to be chasing. But Red Star Belgrade, of course, it's not going to be an easy game. Red Star Belgrade, who beat Olympiacos, didn't they?
So they did.
Well, watch out for Red Star Belgrade, because they've won 10 of their last 11 in the Serbian Superliga.
There you go.
So
yeah,
I mean that's
pivotal.
Yeah,
this,
it's not very often you get to say that, is it?
It's not. But they only conceded 3 against Bayern Munich.
Yes,
Tottenham conceded 7, so
that is true.
Marco Marin is their star player. He used to play for Chelsea. Played 2 league games at Chelsea. Do you remember the nippy winger?
There you go.
Okay, yeah, all right, interesting. And Van La Parra, didn't he play for Huddersfield?
Yeah, he did, didn't he? Okay.
So, they've got a few.
Okay, but it's a game that Spurs should win, although, of course, you just touched on the fact they did concede 7 against Bayern Munich. They were very poor against Watford at the weekend. Very fortunate, I'd argue, to get a draw in that one. Lost the game before that as well. So they're not in a good place at the moment. They've actually got a couple of tough league games coming up as well. So this one's sandwiched in between.
Yeah.
It's a must-win, but arguably at the worst possible time.
Absolutely, and perceptions have changed about Spurs' style of play, I think, in the last few months.
Yeah.
And Pochettino's had his say on that. It's the pressure and the stress. You believe you need to run more and show we are all together, show we are with the manager, show we care. Run, run, run. Sometimes, though, it's better to run less and use more intelligence.
This is true.
Is that the issue then? That the Spurs players are lacking a bit of, on-field intelligence, or is it that they're running less? And
I mean, footballers
not
lacking
pressing?
intelligence. I'm not having it.
Can't be.
No,
Absolutely can't be.
Not having it at all.
Next, you'll be telling me about one of them disgracing themselves on a night out, Kieran.
No
yeah,
chance.
it never happens. Who would live above a nightclub?
Oh, no.
What ex-footballer would do that?
Who would do that? Hello, Rich.
Hi there.
Yeah.
So it was a lovely apartment, lovely views, and handy for the training ground. So anyway, let's get back to the point that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Which somebody just dropped my pen. So, getting back to this is it. Just suddenly talk about my career. We talk
today,
about
Rich.
my career, and all of a sudden I start dropping things. Anywho, yeah. Look, I don't know. I just think that is it a lack of intelligence? At the moment, it's a lack of belief for me for Spurs. I think that it's still largely the same squad that was there or thereabouts this time last year. So what changes? Look, and this is where, I don't know, you can look at teams and sometimes you feel that it won't take a lot for them to get back on track. Like I feel that Tottenham can get back on track much easier than Man United at the moment. Even though Man United did have a good performance against Liverpool, I still feel that Tottenham on their day, this time last season, with this very squad, were fantastic. You remember some of the games, the amount of chances they were creating, and they were there on merit. It wasn't that they were scraping victories. It was them, Liverpool and Man City. Now, I don't know what exactly has changed. I think it is from the top. I think it is from Pochettino. I think that his mindset has changed ever since he was linked to Man United. I think that was a pivotal moment, and I don't think they've ever fully got back on track.
Well, and their star player, I think, personally, their star player is Christian Eriksen, and his head's in Madrid. So this is a manager that isn't in the right headspace, and their talisman isn't in the right headspace. So that's not a potion for success.
Do you reckon it's quite hard to take a rousing team talk from your captain seriously when it sounds like it's all coming out of his nose?
Well, this is interesting. Do you want to hear what Harry Kane had to say?
Hang on. Go on, yeah.
I'm not going to do the...
No, it's
but
all right,
you can, you can put it through. It's not been easy.
It's not been easy.
Of course, we all want to be winning games. The manager wants to be winning games.
The manager wants to be winning games.
But it's about trying to overcome that.
But it's about trying to overcome
Yeah, thank you, Patrick.
We had a translation.
It's not going to be a great straight path to success. There's going to be bumps along the way. We're at one, and we've got to overcome that. But it's not exactly that. That's very typical. As you were talking about your journalism and media course, that's very straight down the line, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
They teach you that.
They taught me that as well. They taught me every cliche. We just got given a book of cliches. Memorise these for the test.
Make sure whenever somebody comes on that doesn't speak the Queen's English, you pretend not to be able to understand the word they say. Rule number 1.
Rule number 1 of the media handbook.
You're in the right place to learn all the tricks of the trade with us two.
Absolutely.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I'm so grateful.
Last par, Tottenham Stadium is expected to be below capacity tonight as Red Star supporters are banned by UEFA. Guess what for?
Oh, wait, hang on a minute. They were really nice to fans of a different ethnic persuasion.
Oh, the complete opposite. You were so
was
close.
it?
Yeah, complete
it's one
opposite.
or the other, isn't it? It's always one or the other.
Yeah.
Part of a penalty for racist behaviour in a qualifier at HJK Helsinki. So, yeah, great stuff.
Can you imagine going all the way to Helsinki just to be racist? It's quite pricey. Do you know what I mean?
Is it?
Yeah, it is. It's not like some kind of budget Ryanair flight to the Costa del Sol, is it? You've gone all the way to Helsinki. It's about 10 quid a pint.
Yeah. Well, you kind of got your cheap racist, and then you got your high-class racist, apparently, it seems.
Apparently so.
Yeah.
Apparently so.
I don't know. Do you know what? Look, I know we've got to be... Look, it is boring me, though, this. Not boring me, because it's horrendous, but it's just, what is going on? Like, even at the weekend, okay, we spoke a lot about, and we had a fantastic guest on yesterday, producer Mark, who filled in yesterday. Give him some
Who?
credit. Just give producer
Nick.
Oh, look, stop it, would you? He's sat in there. He's going to look at you any second now, and he's going to be disgusted with you once again. Producer Mark, of course, got Haringey Borough manager on yesterday, who was very, very open about it. He was obviously very upset. Yeah. But you know what? It wasn't the only incident at the weekend. I know there was a couple of others in games as well in the Championship. I mean, what? I don't
just
get
weird.
this. Is it because actually, in some ways, for all of this, all of the good and the awareness that we're bringing to this, is it the fact that we're bringing the awareness to it that some of the morons out there are then almost like, oh, let's jump on the bandwagon and also get ourselves in the papers for the wrong reasons?
Yeah, there's got to be an element of that because there is a spike in terms of, you know, how many incidents we've had recently in this country. It's because of all the stuff that's been in the papers. And then you do have more people reporting it, I suppose. But it's psychology as well. If you're in a large group of people, you're more likely to do aggressive things. That's just a proven fact.
Well, okay, this actually then links quite nicely to what Jamie Carragher was saying. I guess there's an element of, well, peer pressure for one, but actually there is a mentality of...
mob mentality.
Yeah. Your human beings want to be part of something. Like, that's generally true, that you want to feel part... Which is actually where, like, supporting a team comes in, where you feel you're part of something.
It's tribal.
Yeah. And unfortunately,
this
is the same thing, but in the wrong way.
Yeah, it is. But... it's still not acceptable. It's stupid I have to say that, but you feel like we do have to say that. And, you know, it is about time we just started ejecting people for life and then slowly it will wane.
But what I don't get about it is the idea that you get like, oh, right, okay, let's go to the pub. Go to the pub, we'll pick up the lads, we're going to go to watch the football match. Right, everyone, okay, who's brought the swastikas? No? Anyone? Anyone? Right, it's time for us all to be really racist, is it? I just can't imagine that thought process. If I went to a football match with you and on like the 30th minute you stood up and just racially abused the player and sat back down, like, I think I'd be like, Rich, mate, what
was
the heck was that?
What was that?
Why
oh,
have you just
sorry. Have that outburst every now and then.
But like, I just don't get it.
Handing out like hymn sheets to all the fans of racist chants. It's
because there clearly is some kind of complicity.
Right, the bit that, and you mentioned it there, the gang mentality, the tribe mentality, where of course, now, what I'd like to think happens now, if someone does get up and do that, hopefully with all this awareness, someone then says to them, look, that is not okay. Whereas, in some circumstances, well, in Bulgaria, it seemingly was then everybody joined in, and everyone suddenly, when you got 50, 60 people around you, everybody seems to join in.
They made a night of it, didn't they, in Bulgaria? That was the reason they went to the game.
Yeah.
Can you imagine doing that? Like, all right, off we go to the game, lads. Haven't whacked out the old Nazi salute in a while. Can't wait.
Yeah, been practicing.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, look.
Hello, Wayne Hennessy.
Right, we're going to be talking a bit of tennis after this.
I believe in reincarnation. I've left everything in my will to me.
Giving your team a voice. Love Sport Radio.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
It's cancer, they said. My first thought, let's just say it wasn't money, but time off work for treatment and trips to the hospital, paying the rent, and the cost of living doesn't go away just because you're living with cancer, and Macmillan can help with that too. My advice? Take their advice, soon as I did.
Macmillan, right there with you. Search Macmillan Money Worries.
Making small changes to your lifestyle could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. Start now by taking our free How Are You quiz. Just search 1U.
Oh, it's okay. Let's face it, when your kids are ill, you'd do anything to help them feel better. But remember, antibiotics aren't always needed. You might not realise it, but taking antibiotics when you don't need them puts you and your family at risk of a longer and more severe illness. Help keep your family well. Always take your doctor's advice on antibiotics. Search NHS antibiotics. All better.
Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident, and save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel, and oil. Highways England, connecting the country.
This
is love sport.
Love Sport Breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys, here with you until 10 a.m. We spoke quite a lot about football this morning. We touched on rugby. We're going to talk more rugby in the next hour as well. Something we haven't spoke about, but I am keen to speak about, is a little bit of tennis. We've got George Belshaw, tennis journalist for metro.co.uk on the line. Morning, George.
Morning, guys.
Let's talk a bit of Andy Murray. First singles title win since 2017. Quite an emotional event.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely stunning, really. I mean, this was a guy whose career this year has been kind of underpinned by tears, I suppose. You know, there's a tearful semi-retirement in January where everyone thought it was over. A man who was in so much pain that he felt he couldn't continue doing the thing he loves most. And then just 9 months later, after a surgery that no one's ever come back from, he's again in tears, sobbing at the side of the court, having beaten a fellow three-time Grand Slam champion to win a singles title. I mean, it's just absolutely remarkable. Testament to his ability to just keep coming back, to keep fighting. You know, in this match against Wawrinka, to be perfectly honest, he was second best for so much of it. Wawrinka played so well, just hit through him. And Murray, as he's just always done, just kind of sticks around, hangs around, keeps himself just about in the match, strikes at the biggest moments and wins. And it's a phenomenal story, phenomenal man, phenomenal athlete, just unbelievable effort, really.
So, dare I ask, could we see him win at Wimbledon again?
Look, I mean, there's a lot of factors in this, but you know, it's getting to the stage of why not, really. I mean, okay. You know, he's won 5 matches in a week now. We're not talking about his physical condition being a serious problem. Sure, you know, it is a bit different going to best of 5 sets, and you never know as time goes on just how much the kind of wear and tear will add to him. But from what we've seen so far, his tennis is getting back towards level. It's not there yet, and I know that seems strange to say when he's just won a title this week. But this is still a kind of 4th tier title in terms of men's tennis, even though he is beating Wawrinka in the final, who's obviously a top level opponent. You know, to win a Grand Slam, he'd at the minute likely have to come through at least 2 of his greatest rivals. You know, so that's not going to be easy. But if you know Federer's not going to be around forever, Nadal's not going to be around forever, it's only really Djokovic, who's born a week apart from him, who's going to be there in the long term in terms of his great rivals. So you never know. He's going to have a chance, I think.
It would be incredible for several reasons. I guess one, is it slightly awkward? Because I saw a video when he did get injured where effectively he'd been retired. Like people were giving him tributes and you did it, Andy. Is it not slightly...
You did it, Andy!
Is it not slightly awkward that he's now come back and seemingly getting back somewhere towards his best? And as you mentioned, the fact that Nadal, Federer getting on that little bit more, and Djokovic might be him and Djokovic again, which could be incredible, especially after the type of injury he's had as well. That does retire a lot of tennis players.
Yeah, I mean, I think I said right at the start, you know, no one's had this surgery and come back to play singles. You know, only one guy had come back to tennis full stop, doubles player, Bob Bryan, who, you know, has also enjoyed some success since coming back, but doubles is a different kind of kettle of fish to singles. But you're right, I mean, the way he was kind of retired on court at the Australian Open with all these kind of video tributes from Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, all his kind of ATP colleagues. And we did kind of say at the time, you know, this tribute had actually come after Murray had slightly backtracked over it and sort of said, you know, I'm not sure I'm 100% retired. And they still just kind of went for it, sort of gambled. Oh, this guy's surely dead. He's hobbling around everywhere.
Yeah, the Sky News ticker had it as well, like where he was, he basically, you know, walked out of that press conference in tears, and Sky News straight away, Andy Murray retires from tennis. He's like, oh, no, I'm not. Yes, you have, Andy. Yes, you have. Leave it, mate. It's done. All right? It's fine. You're out to pasture. Should we be looking at this in a slightly different way? The fact is that Rafa and Federer are still essentially top of the pile or very close to it. And Andy Murray has been able to go and have a hip resurfacing surgery that nobody's ever come back from, and he's just won an event. Is there actually something bigger at play here, which is that maybe the standard of tennis is not kicking on in the way that we would like? There don't appear to be any natural successors?
I mean, look, I think the young guns can be accused of that somewhat. I think Medvedev, to be fair, this year is the guy who is stepping up. And, I was chatting to a well-respected British coach this week who is saying, Andy, he thinks will be top 5 by the end of next year, but he will struggle to get above Djokovic, Nadal, Federer and Medvedev. And those are the 4 kind of standout players in the world at the minute. It is also worth saying that, in this tournament, Murray's won this week. He's not really faced any of the young crop who would be there. They weren't playing at this event. So I think I wouldn't necessarily draw that conclusion there. He's lost to Dominic Thiem since he's come back, who's a guy who's reached a couple of French Open finals now. So there are players who are starting to knock on the door. But sure, this generation, we're talking about 3 of the greatest players of all time. 4 of them, if you throw Murray in, they are going to be hard to overthrow. But I think tennis is in need of a little bit more youthful look at the top of the game, and I think Medvedev's the one who could provide it. I think he's genuinely probably the second favourite for the Australian Open behind Djokovic now. So hopefully we can get him getting a breakthrough next year.
If Murray goes on to win a major, in fact, 2 questions. One is whether this is his greatest achievement, coming back from this injury. I know it's a 4th-tier event, like you mentioned, whether it's that. Would it be more so, if he goes on and wins a major, would it then be similar to Tiger Woods? Of course, Tiger Woods in golf, with the back injury, had back surgery and came back to win a major in that. There'd be a lot of similarities, right? If Murray can come back and win a major, surely it's in line with that, maybe even more impressive than that, given the mobility that you need in order to be a top-class tennis player.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there'd be a bigger comeback if Murray wins Wimbledon next year, for example. Tiger Woods was pretty incredible, and of course there was a really long gap between his, most recent major and the last one he'd won. But as you rightly mentioned at the end, the difference in physical nature between tennis and golf is uncomparable, really. For Tiger Woods, he needs to get his body obviously in a shape to play golf, and there's as much a mental aspect, which Woods has shown in the past. He's kind of got in there, but for Murray to win a Grand Slam, he's going to need potentially to be winning 4-hour matches with a hip that had virtually exploded before, and now it's a metal hip. I mean, it would be something truly remarkable. This in itself, I think, is up there with one of the most remarkable comebacks I've ever seen, even though not the biggest tournament he'll ever win. And you're right, because of where he was 9 months ago to now, it does stand there with these achievements, like winning the Olympics, like winning Wimbledon, like winning the US Open, like winning the Davis Cup. It does feel that special, and he said it's one of the most special wins of his career, and it's hard to blame him. It's a remarkable story, I think.
It is indeed. George, really appreciate you joining us this morning. George Belshaw, tennis journalist for metro.co.uk.
I just want you to know, Rich, that if Andy Murray wins Wimbledon, I'll present the show naked.
Yes, of course you are. I had a feeling we were going there again. Eddie Jones has spoken at his press conference about seeing someone filming from a window of an apartment block overlooking their training pitch in Tokyo Bay.
Well, there's definitely someone in the apartment block filming, but it might have been a Japanese fan.
You didn't send anyone to go?
No. Don't care, mate. Don't care. I think you've got a long-range camera, mate. Hey?
Keen to speak to you about this, Patrick, someone who's got a lot of, I suppose, a lot of knowledge of secretly filming. So Eddie Jones has spoken, obviously, just there about being secretly filmed. How do you feel about this?
I feel defamed. I feel like my good reputation has been besmirched. I also wonder how you knew about it.
Yeah, sorry. It's just the fact that the camera's pointing at me right now.
Sorry, I've just got a few things I need to delete.
While Patrick's doing that, we will go to the news. Stay with us. Loads to come in the next hour, 3 minutes to 8.
Love sport.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. This means that travelling to the EU will change. You'll need to check online if your passport is valid for travel to Europe. If you're planning on driving, you'll need to check if you have the right documents to drive. And make sure your travel insurance covers all your healthcare needs. To keep your trip on track, check what you need to do at gov.uk/Brexit. Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October.
Hi, my name's Bob. I'm a retired civil servant from Durham. I used the advice that a spokesman said gave me to haggle with Sky to reduce my monthly payments from £86 per month to £43 per month, which was a saving of £774 over the 18-month contract. A nice little result, if I say so myself, but it was only due to a spokesman said on his brilliant advice that I was able to do a deal for the new contract.
With a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
When your kids are ill, you just want to help them feel better. But you don't always need antibiotics. Get advice from your local pharmacy or search NHS Choices.
If you fall asleep at the wheel, you'll put your life in danger and the lives of others as well. Before you feel tired, pull off the road into a services or other safe area. Drink some strong coffee and take a quick nap while the caffeine kicks in.
If you're having a nap, you've left your lights on, sir.
Right, cheers.
Think. Don't drive tired.
Last Sport Breakfast, me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys. Just touched on it there that Eddie Jones spoke in his press conference about seeing someone filming him from a window. Is it a serious issue that they're being filmed? Or is that just the way of the world now, that everyone films everything?
Yes, but I mean, it is an issue if someone manages to get hold of your tactics. I would like to see him do what Chris Coleman did with Wales, where he wrote down his team sheet and everyone went absolutely nuts for it until they realised he was playing Pele in midfield.
Ah, clever. Clever. Or the Bielsa tactic. You know, that's deemed okay now. Just double down.
Double down.
Double down. If someone accuses you of it, just own up to it and just go even harder. So that's the way of the world now.
Yeah. I mean, look, at the end of the day, it doesn't particularly matter, does it? I mean, we know what we're up against, don't we?
And he'll no doubt he'll name the team before the game, and of course we'll go on and we'll beat New Zealand. Simple as that.
Well, I've been taking hours of video, and actually, I can confirm that they are playing with a rather funny-shaped ball.
And lots of big men. We're going to be talking to Peter McCabe, CEO, Headway, brain injury. We're going to be talking to him shortly. Rich Hall, of course, chief correspondent at Football Italia. As always, get in touch. 0208 70 20 558. We are on YouTube. We're on the socials as well, at Love Sport Radio. The time is 8 o'clock.
On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport News.
From the Sky News Centre at 8, British detectives are to visit the US to interview a woman suspected of killing a teenager in a crash in Northamptonshire. Anne Sakoulas, who's the wife of a diplomat, claimed immunity and fled the UK after the death of Harry Dunn in August. Boris Johnson will attempt to push through the legislation to get his Brexit deal through the Commons by the end of Thursday. MPs will discuss the Prime Minister's EU withdrawal agreement bill over the next 3 days, but some are concerned it won't be scrutinised well enough in that time. Housing Minister Robert Jenrick disagrees.
There will be a number of days of debate. Those MPs who want to pore over the details will have the time to do so. The vast majority of MPs, I think, know where they stand on this issue. Do you want to deliver Brexit? Do you want the country to move forward? If you do, then get on and deliver this.
A man's been arrested on suspicion of murdering two best friends at a house party on Saturday. Dom Anser and Ben Gillam Rice were both stabbed to death in Milton Keynes. The government's planning to give electric cars green number plates. It wants to make it easier for councils to offer incentives like cheaper parking to those who own less polluting vehicles. Former Liverpool defender Jamie Carragher has apologised to Patrice Evra, saying they were wrong to wear T-shirts in support of Luis Suarez. It happened in 2011 after Suarez had been given an 8-game ban for racially abusing Evra during a Premier League game with Manchester United. Carragher was working alongside the Frenchman as a pundit on Sky Sports last night.
As a football club, your first reaction, no matter what someone does, is to sort of support them, even if you know that they're wrong. Racism, assault, different things, whatever go on, that is the first reaction, really. And as I said, apologies, we got it massively wrong.
And Sheffield United have moved into the top half of the Premier League thanks to a win over Arsenal. They won 1-0 at Bramall Lane. That's the latest. I'm Kat Suave.
This is Love Sport.
Arla Cravendale. It's not milk. It's fresh milk, filtered for purity. Arla Cravendale's legal department would like to point out that Arla Cravendale is milk, and as such is not subject to terms and conditions, but most certainly subject to a filtering process, which makes it pure, longer-lasting, and unquestionably fresh milk of the most delicious kind. So, yes, in one sense it's not milk, but in every other sense it categorically is milk, because it's milk from cows, although it's filtered afterwards, making Arla Cravendale not any ordinary milk, but rather a pure, filtered milk that, for legal purposes, is most definitely fresh milk that's been filtered for purity.
Love Sport Radio. On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport Breakfast with Richard Lee and Patrick Christys.
Morning, that's what breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys. We're here with you until 10 a.m. Let's touch on the top stories this morning. Arsenal fall out of the top four with a 1-0 away defeat at Sheffield United. Heightened dementia risk linked to footballers. That's all over the back pages today. Carragher apologises to Evra for Suarez T-shirts after fullback racially abused by the Uruguayan. Millwall appoint Gary Rowett. In fact, I want to talk about that. Gary Rowett is the manager.
It's quite hard to say Gary Rowett.
Yeah, I just say Gary Rowett. Yeah, that is really difficult. Millwall appoint Gary Rowett as manager. Haringey versus Yeovil to be replayed this time next week, which is good news. Of course, we spoke to the Haringey manager yesterday. Man United eject fan for alleged racist abuse towards a Liverpool player. And Van Dijk joins 7 Liverpool players and Hugo Lloris on Ballon d'Or shortlist. It is myself, Richard Lee, and yes, the man from, you might have seen him, Russia Today, Sky News. Where else have you been?
Your dreams.
Regularly. Mr. Patrick Christys. That was a bit weird.
Yeah, it got weird quick.
Yeah, it got really weird. 0 to 100. Yeah. So we're going to be talking to Peter McCabe shortly, CEO, headway brain injury, because this is a big story this morning. It's all over, well, several of the papers in regards to the links of dementia with ex-footballers.
Yes, I think it's something that we've all known, really, for a little while. So the FA and the PFA announced in 2017 that they will be co-funding a study into the impacts of essentially heading the ball on footballers, especially those born or playing, I should say, between 1900 and the late 1970s. And it's revealed that former footballers are 3.5 times more likely to die from neurodegenerative disease, and essentially it's proven a link between football and dementia when it comes to heading the heavy ball. So I know that this has been around for a while, at least the theory has. I don't know, Alan Shearer did a documentary on it, for example, heavily scripted, you'd imagine. And yeah, so I think that it now becomes an issue of, does the PFA have a duty to protect these players? Is it the case now that the PFA should stump up the money for people's care if they have to go into a home or whatever relating to dementia? Should they maybe allow everyone to be tested for free and things like that? Because at the moment they have been dragging their heels a little bit.
Yeah, well, someone who's going to be able to give us a lot more information on this and a bit of insight, Peter McCabe, CEO, Headway Brain Injury, who's on the line. Morning, Peter.
Good morning. Who's that? Is that Rich or Patrick?
This is Richard here.
You could have lied to him then.
Richard. I could have. I don't know why would have done that. I mean, it could have been fun.
Just for our own amusement.
Very true, very true. No, some interesting facts that are coming out this morning. It's all over the back pages. So footballers 5 times more likely to suffer from Alzheimer's disease, 3.5 times more likely to suffer from dementia, I believe. Now, we were talking earlier, it's not all in relation to heading a football, is it? Or is it largely due to that?
Well, I think the study, which is it's a very good piece of work by Dr. Stewart and his colleagues up in Glasgow. It looked at 7,676 ex-players, compared them to 23,000 people from the general population. So it's a piece of serious scientific research that we need to take seriously.
So yeah, I mean, look, and obviously the figures are. Well, they're quite stunning, really. 5 times more likely to suffer from Alzheimer's. I know there were certain positives as well. So I'm aware that less likely to have heart disease, less likely to have certain types of cancer. So it's not all negative necessarily. I believe the average lifespan is that little bit longer for an ex-footballer, which I guess would make sense in some cases. But of course, touching on the brain injuries in particular, I know it's been quite big in rugby. It's been quite big in NFL in particular. In fact, it's been huge over there. I know there was a film made on the back of it. What needs to happen now? Is it as simple as, and I made the suggestion earlier, whether it's ex-footballers going for regular checkups? Because, of course, if you've had a long career in professional sport, then you are going to be more likely. Is it a case of having regular checkups? Or Is it a case with Alzheimer's or with dementia that there's actually very little that you can do? If you're going to get it, you're going to get it?
Well, I think the fact that there's a much greater likelihood of getting it means that we've got to have a long, hard look at this. But I think the other thing to draw your attention to is that the sample that was used was from men who played professional football between 1900 and 1976. And the obvious thing with such people is that they will have used the kind of balls that and I'm old enough to have played with a leather football, I have to confess, with the laces that would leave a sort of imprint on your head when you headed it. And when it was wet, it was like a lump of concrete. And, people were, in a sense, they were using different equipment in those days. And that's one of the unanswered questions. How would that compare with the modern lighter football? And I don't think anyone's got the answer to that question. But what should be done? Well, one of the things that we've been calling for is, first of all, we wanted this research to be done years ago, and the football authorities have taken too long to get round to part funding it. The second thing that we need to do is now that we've got this link, or apparent link, we need to undertake further research to give parents, who'll be concerned about their kids, answers to some questions. But one of our big campaigns in recent times, as you will be aware, is concussion substitutes. Take concussion seriously. So if somebody has sustained a concussion, instead of trying to do a quick assessment, you actually remove the player, you put on a substitute so the team isn't disadvantaged, and then you don't get this nonsense of people sort of being a hero by playing when they're injured and potentially, really damaging their health. So there's lots of things that need to be done, and I think football has to consider this evidence, gather more, and then take appropriate action based on the evidence that emerges.
Is there some indication at all that maybe the FA and the PFA are a little bit nervous that they might have to start dishing out quite a lot of money for people's care, or maybe some kind of compensation, or just generally in that respect, really?
Well, one would hope that they would do it, in order to protect the health and well-being of players. But, I think it's quite clear from the NFL that when you start having lawsuits coming in your direction, that people take things more seriously because it starts to cost them money.
You touch on the concussion sub, which it's an interesting. It would change football completely if you almost had like rolling subs on and off, like you have in a lot of other sports. Basketball being a good example, where they literally come on and off throughout the game. It would change the game completely. Part of me then wondered whether it would go down the route of everyone wearing Petr Cech style helmets, effectively, to make sure, which I suppose it would kill.
Well, I'm not sure I would go along with the idea of rolling subs, because if you think about it, how often is there a sort of suspected concussion in a game? It's not like you'd be having one every 5 minutes. It happens now and then, but my problem with it is that it hasn't been taken seriously, and other sports have introduced protocols, but football seems to lag behind, and I think that needs to be addressed urgently. Years ago, you may remember, Hugo Lloris was knocked out in a game, and he was completely knocked out, and he came round and he overruled the physio and his manager and started thrashing about and saying he wasn't going to leave the field. Well, that's just nonsense. That should never happen. And then they were talking about introducing the independent tunnel doctor. And I went to a game at the weekend, and they published the team sheet and they published the names of the match officials, but there was no sign of an independent tunnel doctor. Why don't they name that person so that they are visible and you can see that they're taking this whole aspect seriously? But, I think if somebody does sustain a suspected concussion, then, bringing on a sub so that they can be properly assessed it's just common sense, isn't it?
Yeah, no, you make a fair point. Something else that's been raised is, well, calls for under-18s to stop heading footballs. Is that an overreaction, or is that a necessary measure if we care about long-term health?
God, there's somebody there with strong views. I've got 2 grandsons. Of course, I want them to play football. Football's a great game. I loved playing it. It was good for me, good for my health, and it remains so. Even this study says that life expectancy is increased amongst footballers because they're so fit, and that stays with them for life. The question is, do we know enough to be able to say whether really young kids should be heading footballs? I think the answer is no. Do we want to deter them from taking up the sport? No. But you know what? When my grandsons are playing football and they're playing 5-a-side, they enjoy it just as much as when they're playing 11-a-side, and so I think there is a case for looking at it. I mean, Patrick seems to take the view, no.
Well, something's going to get you, isn't it? In the end, something's going to get you. This is the thing. Seriously. So, the idea.
Have you got kids, Patrick?
Not yet. No, I'm not unfortunate enough to have any at the moment.
Well, maybe you'd take a different view when you see your own precious child, and you don't like taking risks with them. Of course, you can't wrap them up in cotton wool, but I think it is important that we just consider this. I'm not saying ban it. I'm saying it should be considered, and we need to gather evidence and make decisions which are evidence-based, rather than gut instinct, which sounds what you're doing.
Indeed. Do you know what, Peter? Very interesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Peter McCabe there, CEO, Headway Brain Injury, giving his thoughts on that. I mean, look, it is a really interesting subject. You're not having that, are you? The under-18s to stop because?
Well, right. Look, mate, I'm not being funny, but we already don't have winners and losers on sports days anymore. What point do we just go or just wrap kids? Literally, you have to buy an extra large shirt because of all the layers of bubble wrap that you've got to need. It's heading a football, mate. It's heading a football. I get it that back in the day when you were essentially heading a cylindrical bit of concrete, pretty much, and a heavy ball. Nowadays, it's football. If you don't fancy it, don't play. I'm concerned actually at the moment that people get up in the morning and just never leave their room, just in case. Or what if I get hit by a bus? What if the Ebola outbreaks in this country? What if something happens? If you're a child and you enjoy playing football, you can occasionally head a football.
Ebolas, that's the one. You've got to be careful on that. It's getting worse again. We're going to be talking to Rich Hall, Chief Correspondent at Football Italia. By all means, let us know your thoughts on heading a football. 0208 70 20 558. We're on YouTube as well. For what it's worth, my thoughts, I think there has to be a certain age that you can start heading, because there's got to be some research behind this. If you've got a 5-year-old, I can imagine you in the garden throwing the ball up for your 5-year-old to rise like a salmon, heading it into the corner. There's got to be obviously your brain's developing all the time. So I would certainly listen to the experts. If your brain's still developing and you're heading a ball at the age of 10, I remember playing under 8s when I was under 8, and we used to play obviously back then it was long ball. That's basically how everyone plays. You'd be pumping it forward. You have 8-year-old kids heading it out for a corner, heading out for a throw in, and that can't be good for an 8-year-old kid. Now, look, do I think under 18s? No, I think if you've got a 17-year-old not able to head a football, that's embarrassing. But I think maybe 12.
But there's a bit of a misconception. I'm not talking about doing 1,000 headers a day. I'm talking about over the course of a football match, heading the ball a few times. What's wrong with that?
Okay, let us know your thoughts. 17 minutes past 8.
I am a god in Scotland. They've never seen anyone live to 70.
Love sport.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
It's cancer, they said. My first thought, let's just say it wasn't money, but time off work for treatment and trips to the hospital, paying the mortgage, and the cost of living doesn't go away just because you're living with cancer, and Macmillan can help with that too. My advice? Take their advice. Soon as. I did.
Macmillan, right there with you. Call now or search Macmillan Money Worries.
Making small changes to your lifestyle could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. Start now by taking our free How Are You quiz. Just search 1U. Exercise. It doesn't have to mean Lycra or a fancy gym membership. All you need is 10 minutes and you. Because a regular 10-minute brisk walk is a great way to get more active. Whether that's walking to the shops or getting off the bus a stop early. Picking up the pace and getting your heart pumping can make a real difference to your health. So, to see how much brisk walking you're doing and how you can fit more into your day, download the free Active 10 app, because there's only one you.
I love my brother. We do fun things like playing together. I like having hugs with Freddie. Freddie gives the best hugs. Freddie used to be very poorly, and the doctor said he might need a new liver. Then one day, a very nice person gave their liver to Freddie. It was amazing. We were so happy. Now he's around to give me more hugs than ever.
Tell your family you want to save lives. To find out more, visit organdonation.nhs.uk.
This is Love Sport.
Love Sport Breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you until 10 a.m. We're going to move back to a little bit of football, and Italian football in particular with Mr. Rich Hall. Morning, Rich.
Morning, gents.
Good morning. Lots going on in Italian football. Certainly Lukaku's making quite a name for himself over there.
He certainly is. I mean, there was always questions over Lukaku, obviously, because of the reputation he brought over from the UK with his form at Manchester United. But Conte really believed in him, really thought he was going to be the player to replace Mauro Icardi. And obviously, Mauro Icardi, despite all the issues that he had at Inter, and we don't need to go into all the PR disaster there with his wife, Wanda Icardi, but the one thing he always did was score goals. And he always scored goals in big games. And Lukaku's had a bit of a hit and miss, I would say, on some of his form. He didn't really turn up in the Derby d'Italia against Juventus, but against Sassuolo in what was a crazy 4-3 win for Inter, he certainly was on par. But the reason he made the headlines is he had 2 goals in the bag already, one of them being a penalty, and he had a chance to get a third, a hat-trick, but he gave the penalty over to his partner, Lautaro Martinez, so they could both bag a brace.
Oh, nice. Very selfless of Mr. Lukaku. Well, look, it's getting interesting at the top. Do you want to talk about that? But I want to touch on Atalanta because, of course, they play Man City tonight. They had a 3-3 draw with Lazio in their last game. What can City expect from Atalanta? Because they're looking good this season.
I think there's a couple of things about Atalanta at the moment. First of all, the game against Lazio, it really was a crazy game. But I think City can take a little bit of heart from this because whilst Luis Muriel, who came in for Zapata, who was not available for that game, they went 3-0 up. But they did, obviously, considering the game was 3-3, come back, well, obviously concede 3 goals. And Gasperini was absolutely furious with this. And defensively, they have lacked a little bit. But going forward, I mean, Pep Guardiola is a huge fan of Gasperini, comparing him to Maurizio Sarri and saying that the type of football that Gasperini plays is one of those coaches who inspires Guardiola. So what they certainly can expect is a team who are very dogged, very determined. They have nowhere near the quality of City, but what Gasperini's put together with this squad is a team that plays free-flowing attacking football, and in turn, all of his players really do work together as a unit.
Can they trouble City?
I think they can. Certainly on the flanks, I think that the one thing that, despite them having a few defensive errors in them, I think that Atalanta, the likes of Papu Gomez, the likes of Luis Muriel, they've got different attacking options. It's not easy to pinpoint the fact of, it's all through Zapata. They've got different players on the pitch who can all cause them the City a bit of a threat. So, but again, the one thing I would say about this is a lot of Atalanta's good performances come when they're at home at Bergamo, and they've had to play there because their stadium was being rejigged at the start of the season, 2 curvers being renovated. They've had to play at San Siro, and that, I think, has been partly due to their poor form in the Champions League.
So, Rich, I have to say that when I saw the running order this morning, I flicked through and I was so happy to see your name. And the reason being, obviously being an ex-goalkeeper, you probably know where I'm going to go with this. There was something that happened in a game at the weekend that I have to talk about. Mr. Gianluigi Buffon making an unbelievable save in the last minute, 41 years old, top corner to win the game for Juventus.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. I mean, Gigi Buffon came back to Juventus, still hoping that there's a chance of that Champions League win he's missing. And in his contract, I think it was something along the lines of, I need to play 10 games. This isn't just a token gesture. I mean, as you say, Gigi Buffon is one of the greatest goalkeepers ever, really. Probably up there with Dino Zoff in Italy, if not better. And against Bologna, that save at the end was absolutely incredible for a 41-year-old to have those reactions and the timing of it as well to keep his team in that game. It really was superb. If you're overcritical as a goalkeeper, I'm sure you may say he should have got the first cross, but the agility to save that and tip it over was something else. I mean, he's 2 years older than me, and my back hurts getting out of the car.
But this was it. I think the big thing for me was, and you just said there, like for a 41-year-old, I think for a 25-year-old, it was the fact that as you read it as well, before it struck, you could see he's almost started to move because he's read where it's going. Top hand, great power as well, which for his age to still have the power was incredible. Of course, Cristiano Ronaldo scored again, 701 that he has now. How's it looking at the top? Juventus 4 points clear. Of course, Inter Milan do have the game in hand. From what you're seeing, I know we've asked this before, but do you think that Inter Milan can give them a challenge?
I think they can. I think the biggest thing about this is that Conte is far from thinking this team is a finished article. They do like a bit of creativity in midfield, even though they've got some good players there. When Stefano Sensi hasn't played, they've looked a little lapsed, but now we can see Nicolo Barella really coming to the fore. They're certainly wanting to add in January. I think if they can keep pace with Juventus till January now, there's talk of the likes of Milinkovic-Savic or even the likes of some more experienced heads have been talked about. The likes of Matic from Chelsea and also Olivier Giroud coming in to help those forward options. That's going to be the key. I think that's the only place that they're lacking a little bit, because when you look on that bench and you take out the likes of Lautaro Martinez and Sanchez, he's obviously now injured. You've not really got much depth after Lukaku and Martinez, should I say. You've got Esposito, who's very young, very bright, but probably not enough. So I think keeping pace till January window and a few good additions, I think they really can push Juventus.
Yeah, and Inter take on Dortmund tomorrow night. Conte criticised for his managerial ability in Europe. Can he stop Dortmund?
No one wants to more than Conte. It's quite amusing how angry he gets at this conversation in the media. The Italian media really do push him on this. Obviously, when he was at Juventus, that was the reason he ended up leaving. He always said, they didn't have enough players to compete in that competition. I think that Dortmund game is huge. Absolutely huge, because the biggest disappointment there was the opening game against Slavia Prague, and the draw that they had there. Barcelona is Barcelona at the end of the day, but I think this game with Dortmund is really going to decide who goes through out of these two teams. Defensively, Inter were quite poor on the weekend, but the previous start of the season have been absolutely excellent. So it's going to be a really tight game, this one, but I still think Inter have got a good chance.
Great stuff, Rich. As always, do appreciate your company.
Thanks a lot. Cheers, guys.
That's Rich Hall, their chief correspondent at Football Italia. Patrick, I want to talk to you about the Ballon d'Or, if that's okay.
Yes, absolutely, Rich.
So,
have you been nominated? Because everybody else has.
They have been nominated. There's some interesting names this year, aren't there?
Yeah, such as Hugo Lloris.
Yeah.
And Wijnaldum.
Right, so do you want me to list them very quickly? I'll run through them very quickly. So Virgil van Dijk, Bernardo Silva, Son Heung-min, Robert Lewandowski, Roberto Firmino, Alisson, Matthias de Ligt, Karim Benzema, Wijnaldum, Aguero, De Jong, Hugo Lloris, Dusan Tadic, Cristiano Ronaldo, Mbappe, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Donny van Beek, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, Ter Stegen, Mane, Messi, Mahrez, Kevin De Bruyne, Koulibaly, Griezmann, Salah, Hazard.
I'll see you in a minute, actually, mate.
Two more, Raheem Sterling, João Felix. There you go, done.
Oh, was that over now?
That was it. Look, right. 30 names. Boom. That was very quick.
Bish, bash, bosh.
Bish, bash, bosh. 15 seconds, done. Right.
You need to be one of those people who gets workers, the person that reads the terms and conditions at the end of an advert.
Really quickly.
Really quickly.
Yeah. Or the side effects of certain things that you might take from the chemist.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of names that stick out for me. One is Wijnaldum. Not necessarily he doesn't deserve to be there, but more the fact that maybe, he is obviously a top player. Maybe he doesn't quite get the credit he deserves. That's one. The other one is Hugo Lloris, because, look, I'm a big fan of Hugo Lloris. However, I think it's fair to say that there are certain Tottenham fans that haven't been so sure on him in this last year. There's certain fans that have been calling for him to be dropped, certainly in more recent times. For him to be one of only a few goalkeepers on the list, in fact, is he maybe 2 or 3 goalkeepers? So for him to be considered among the top 3 goalkeepers in the world.
That's weird, because Ederson and Alisson are just objectively better, aren't they?
So obviously Alisson is there, but Ederson isn't.
That's bizarre.
Yeah. I think it.
Can I just ask, does your agent get you on this list?
I'd love to know. Maybe Kieran can help us with
Because
this.
I've got a sneaky suspicion that agents have a thing or two to do with this list of players now, and I wouldn't be surprised if Hugo Lloris's agent has done quite well for him there, because I don't see any logical reason why he would be on the list of world's best players.
Yeah, indeed. I'm just looking at some of this now. In fact, Kieran might be able to help us.
Of course, the glaring omission is Emil Heskey.
Of course. In fact, 4 Premier League-based keepers are in the running for the Yashin Award. So, right, Lloris is actually in line for the Ballon d'Or. Then there is the Lev Yashin, of course, very famous goalkeeper, Russian legend Lev Yashin. So there is an award for goalkeepers, 4 from the Premier League, which is Alisson, Ederson, Kepa and Lloris again. But Ederson and Kepa aren't in the Ballon d'Or running. I don't know. It fascinates me, and actually, I probably should know this. So it's something we're going to research. But who does put players forward? Is this a vote? Is it a vote from players that put each other forward?
I would just wonder a little bit whether or not there's some quite clever work gone on there by his agent, because that would make more sense than the fact that they actually do consider him to be among the world's best players.
In terms of who will win it, your thoughts? Virgil van Dijk has to be there or thereabouts, you would think.
Yeah. Ronaldo,
of course.
I mean, it just goes, it's going to be difficult to overcome Cristiano Ronaldo, personally.
So I just had it on the screen from Kieran. Awarded jointly by FIFA and France Football, which then might explain that, maybe.
The French get involved with everything, don't they? Like with the Olympics, the opening ceremony is always done in French, and then it's done in English. You know.
Yeah, interesting. Well, look, let us know your thoughts on this. Ballon d'Or nominations. Good to see Aubameyang on there as well. Obviously, Ter Stegen. Sadio Mane, I think. In fact, 7 Liverpool players, of course, winning the European Cup. It's not surprising, I'd guess. I certainly think that Van Dijk has to be there or thereabouts. But let us know who you think might win. 0208 70 20 558. Or, like many of you have done, get in touch on YouTube also. 29 minutes past 8.
This is Love Sport. Digital radio offers great sound quality and more stations than ever before. And we want to make sure that you get Love Sport on your digital radio. Just press the auto tune or auto scan button and Love Sport will appear on your menu. Love Sport on digital radio. Are you paying way too much for your energy bills? A Spokesman Said is a price comparison site that shows you the very best energy deals on the market. Don't pay the price for rising energy costs.
With a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Hello, I'm Tim from Bolsover. I'm a retired teacher. I was looking for a better electricity deal from my parents when I got an email from a Spokesman Said. It was a fixed deal for 2 years, which was better for my parents, less for them to worry about. And when I had to look at the sums, I had to recheck because I couldn't quite believe it. They were going to save over £900 each year they were on that deal. Needless to say, we signed up pretty quickly.
With a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
When your kids are ill, you just want to help them feel better. But you don't always need antibiotics. Get advice from your local pharmacy or search NHS Choices.
If you're driving on a motorway and you see a red X sign overhead, you need to change lanes safely. Driving in a red X lane is an offence. Red X's are there for a reason, to protect you and others from danger. The lane may be blocked by a broken down vehicle or road workers, or the lane may be needed for the emergency services. So if you see a red X, change lanes safely. Highways England, connecting the country.
My mum and dad say that I don't need lots of sugar. I'm sweet enough already. So we used the Change for Life food scanner app to find out how much sugar is in our food and drink. It's surprising how much we found. So I put my detective hat on to find the healthier choices. Woohoo! Found one, Mum! You can be food smart too. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app today.
Love Sport.
Last one breakfast, me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys. One of the other stories of yesterday is that Millwall have a new manager. Gary Rowett has taken over at Millwall. He's one of 3 candidates. Of course, Gareth Ainsworth was also in line for the job. They've decided to go with Rowett, who previously with Burton Albion, Birmingham City, Derby County, and most recently Stoke City. Well, it didn't go particularly well, I think it's fair to say. Kieran has come to join us to touch on this and also to touch on the Ballon d'Or.
Yes, I just want to clarify. The Ballon d'Or is solely given by France Football now, which might
explain Hugo Lloris.
Explain the Hugo Lloris thing. Although Neymar's been left out, so the PSG thing.
Yeah, okay, but like, Neymar, is he overly popular there at the moment? I mean,
Not
look,
really. Actually, there's a stat. There's more current or former Southampton players on the Ballon d'Or shortlist than there are PSG former or current players.
There you go.
There you go. So
quite a stat.
we can accuse the French of bias, maybe, but
I just think on that one, Hugo Lloris, and by no means am I saying I think he's had a bad year, because I don't think he has. I think he's been harshly criticised at times when he's made mistakes in big games. Haven't done him any favours. Should he be on the Ballon d'Or list? No. Absolutely not.
He's nowhere near as good as Edison, right?
Edison's been phenomenal. They won a treble last year, and largely thanks to how well Edison played.
I think you found it was 4. I think the Community Shield counted.
My bad. In fact, if I'm going to count the Ibiza Cup as my achievements, then we count the Community Shield in everything that we do.
Yeah, it's probably on a par with the 100-metre dash that I won when I was 9.
Was it a dash? I can't imagine you dashing.
I used to be very quick.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Just downhills.
Yeah.
Why are you going for him? Be nice to him.
Do you reckon, though? Because I didn't realise, maybe I've been a bit thick here, I didn't realise that it was basically just the French that voted on who gets the Ballon d'Or.
No, I didn't.
Well, I suppose it's quite a long shortlist, and realistically, it's been easy, isn't it? The last few years, it's Ronaldo or Messi, and then they gave it to Modric last year, weirdly, because Real Madrid won everything and Croatia got to the final. Like, it was sort of we've not given it to someone else outside Ronaldo and Messi. Here you go, Modric. It's a bit of a farce.
This year, then, is it Van Dijk? Is he favourite? Am I right in thinking that?
I think he is favourite. I'll have a look at the bookies odds in a minute. But Van Dijk obviously won the kind of UEFA award that they did recently, kind of Best Player of the Year type award. So, yeah, he's got to be right up there. Is he the best player in the world, though?
Do you think Van Dijk gets enough stick for his hair?
You're not a fan?
It's a strange one, isn't it?
It looks like it's really coarse.
It's crinkled and it's slicked back, and it works because it's Virgil van Dijk and he's such an imperious, imposing defender. But if I saw that in the street,
it looks like it could scrub your plates clean, like one of those metal scours.
Okay, do you know what though? I can't imagine him looking anything different now. Like he does, he looks commanding. It kind of suits him. Whereas if he had, I don't know, think of some of the other.
Size?
No, that's not him. That's not him. No, I think it's all part of the image. And I like that when a player's got, Jack Grealish, we give him a lot of stick for his hair because it's horrendous. But it wouldn't look right if he just had a short...
he's dyed it blonde.
Yeah, I know. But it wouldn't look right if he had a short back and sides. I'd be really disappointed. Jack Grealish, that is his hair. Like when you're playing FIFA, you expect a Jack Grealish with the floppy hair.
He's basically a Peaky Blinder, isn't he?
Yeah.
It was like when David Silva went bald at the start of last season. It was like, what's going on?
Yeah, not
and
sure
then FIFA changed his hairstyle, and then by the time they'd done that, his hair had grown back.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
It was like when I decided to thicken my hair.
Yeah, how did you do that?
I just, if you just want something bad enough, you pray and you keep asking, all of a sudden it gets thicker. Let's talk about Gary Rowett.
4 hair transplants, isn't it?
It's only 3. Gary Rowett, right. First and foremost, let's talk about this. New Millwall manager, and Millwall fans going to be happy with this appointment.
Yes. I think for the style of play, they could only go for a certain type of manager. I think Gary Rowett works well with teams that are underdogs largely, and he can set them up organised, and I think that's what Millwall's players' current squad set. That's their ability. So
he didn't have a particularly good time at Stoke. This is
what's his record?
Nobody has a particularly good time at Stoke, though, mate. To be perfectly honest.
I mean, Nathan Jones has won like 3 games since he's gone there, so he's had a better time than Nathan Jones.
I do want to make the point that if your surname's Rowett, I wouldn't call your child Gary because it is a difficult name to say.
Gary Rowett, yeah.
I don't think they were thinking about Love Sport Radio presenters when they named
Still
Gary.
better than Neville, though, isn't it?
That's true. I mean, if we're going to grade them.
Also, did you talk about Nathan Jones's reaction.
Celebration.
Yeah.
Well,
Yesterday, that was incredible.
I mean, look, he's obviously had a lot of pressure, and he's given a resignation speech several times, and they just won't sack him. So, but in fairness, to win 2 games, I understand the release and the relief and the emotion. But
Bit much though. They're like
that was it. It was like they'd won the FA Cup more than them winning the FA Cup final, and it just concerns me a bit that we talk a lot about emotional intelligence on this show. I mean, he looks like he wears his heart on his sleeve.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think if you're going to be a top manager, I think you need to be able to contain that to an extent.
But
I think.
Yeah, that's what Gary Rowett seems to be good at. I think in press conferences he holds himself quite well.
Do you know what? No, right, don't get me wrong. I think, look, he did well at Birmingham. I just think he struggled at Stoke, but I think this is I suppose the thing you see a lot is these managers that seemingly get jobs at the same level over and over and over without necessarily succeeding in a big way. But I guess the argument would be that he hasn't failed in a massive way. Some would say he did at Stoke. Fair enough. But I guess if he's going into Millwall, what you'd think is, I don't think they'll get relegated, which is, I mean, that sounds a bit defeatist. I suppose Millwall fans want more than that. But I think with Gary Rowett in charge, you don't get relegated without sounding defeatist, is that the objective here?
Yeah, it's a difficult one because you feel like Gary Rowett has moved on to different jobs when it suited him. So he's not exactly like going to be a long-term kind of project.
Well, thing is, what is the long-term project at Millwall? Because Millwall have an identity. Millwall, look, if they'd have suddenly brought in let's say Nathan Jones, because that's a good example where you want to change the style of play, then you bring in a Graham Potter like Brighton have done, and okay, you're gonna have a style of play change. But with that could come some issues, because if you go from the classic Millwall style, and Millwall do have an identity, to suddenly playing a completely different style of football, it might be short-term pain for long-term gain. It might be relegation this season in order to change the mindset of the club. But I don't think the fans want that, whereas I think Gary Rowett does fit that. I think, in fairness, the people they interviewed, and obviously the other candidates, Gareth Ainsworth being a good example, for anyone that's seen Wickham play, of course, they've got Bayo Akinfenwa up front. Now, if you've got Bayo Akinfenwa in your team, you are putting balls on Bayo Akinfenwa. I've never seen anyone hold the ball up. Even now, it's incredible. So they will get a goalkeeper who can lump it 80 yards to Bayo, who holds it up and brings in the wingers, and they play from there. And Wickham, by the way, second in the league in League One. Absolute joke. So it's incredible what he's done. So these were the right candidates for the job. I would have given it to Gareth Ainsworth.
Interesting.
I'd have given him a chance, yeah. I feel that he probably would have brought in Bayo as well.
Do you think?
I think
in the Championship?
I think he would have, because I think that although he lacks mobility...
Isn't he like 30?
He's quite old now, yeah. But in terms of a target man, he's still the best target man in League One. Probably would be the best in the Championship. No?
Well, no, he is by definition, isn't he? But it almost feels like you kind of hate that.
Yeah.
It's a massive step backwards.
It is, yeah.
Look,
but
you might as well just not pick a midfield.
Do you know what I'd say?
Straight over the head.
Do you know what I'd say? If you're going to do something, be the best at it. So, like, we did this at Watford, where we went to the Premier League. In fact, it's going to completely kill my point, because we finished rock bottom with the lowest number of points that anyone's ever had in the Premier League. But the point is, we were going to commit to it. We were going to fully commit. So we had Darius Henderson up front. We had Danny Shittu at the back. We had Lee Bromby, who could throw it in from anywhere. We had Ben Foster, who was pumping it into the box from goal kicks. So it was like, right, we're going to be long ball. We're going to be proud of being long ball, and we're going to be the best at long ball. And we got ourselves into the Premier League doing that. You're not happy with this at all, are
Proud
you?
of being long ball.
But I think if you're going to do
That's
it,
like
you do it
people that
well.
are proud to be from Burnley. Do you know what I mean? It's not a thing. It's not a thing.
Okay.
Well, I feel like I'm being shot down. Go on, Kieran.
Moving on. Just before I move on to the rugby, I've just seen this in the mail. It's quite interesting. Luke Shaw is heading to Dubai to step up his rehabilitation from injury following a setback in his recovery. Do you reckon Man United have just got a farm out there? Like, they've farmed Pogba out there.
Can I just put this out there? Luke Shaw, do you not think he just looks like he's too fat all the time?
I mean, he's got
and
one of
he
those...
keeps pulling his hamstring. I'm not being funny, but like I don't remember. I've forgotten what he looks like.
Do you know some people, I think some people have that look.
Stocky.
Yeah, there you go. Big boned.
Yeah, but he keeps getting injured. This is the thing. I could tolerate it if he was rocking up and playing every week. But he's got Luke Shaw. We've picked Luke Shaw now for the first 55 minutes until we have to bring him off when he does his hamstring again.
I think it's body types. This is, and by the way, clubs now are so astute when they bring on young players, because they know it's about body types. It's about bringing on the type of player. Look, I use this like the example of Ronaldo being a great example, where he's just got a phenomenal physique, biomechanically perfect, obviously, and he looks after himself incredibly well.
Yeah.
No, you know where I'm going with this. So I guess if you've
And
got
when
that...
he takes his top off.
No,
oh,
Patrick, you've gone
so
too far.
chiseled.
Gone too far.
What?
You
I thought that's what we were doing.
No, you turn this a bit
Is that
weird.
not what we're doing?
No, it's more.
Oh, sorry,
like,
guys.
if you were to design the perfect footballer, then you'd want.
See how I got confused?
Yeah, totally.
Right, look, if you were to design the perfect footballer, then you'd want a certain base to work from, which, by the way, I haven't got. Go on, Patrick. What are you going to say? I can see you've got something on the tip of your tongue.
No, just
You'd want a
go on.
certain base to build from. You'd want someone that you knew was going to have a big capacity. So, for instance, if you were going to design a goalkeeper, you wouldn't want
Me.
Yes, with the greatest respect, because you wouldn't be tall enough, you wouldn't be powerful enough because of your physique, and that's not your fault. It's just the way it is. You're an intellectual. You're not an athlete.
I'm an intellectual.
You are.
That's a crushing blow, isn't it? So intellectuals everywhere.
No, right. I feel like I'm trying to make a good point here, but it's being shot down. But Luke Shaw, I don't think has he's maximising what he's doing. I don't think he's necessarily got the best base.
But as an 18-year-old, he was super quick and had a lot of technical ability and got into the Southampton team on merit and was probably one of the best left-backs in the league with Southampton at 18. Now, is this sort of just showing that actually, in terms of your physical development, you can peak at different ages?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. No, that's 100% exactly what it is. It's you, and I think for him, the worry is that he will peak younger than a Ronaldo. I'll always use him as an example because, yeah, I think there's, and that's the concern, I guess, for United. And going back to your point, Patrick, he doesn't look like he is particularly athletic all the time. Patrick, once again, so I just have to make a note of this. For those who haven't seen it on Sky, it's very sweet. There's kids that are riding these Shetland ponies. And I don't know why you found it quite as amusing as you have, but it's a very sweet thing. They're riding these Shetland ponies. It's a nice race. And every time it's been on this morning, Patrick has been crying with laughter.
It's brilliant. Even smaller jockeys.
Anyway.
Kieran, what have you got for us?
Well, I think we should go to a break soon.
Yeah.
No, they are children.
They are children. They are.
Okay. Yeah. All Blacks obviously playing England on Saturday, which we will be building up to all week. And James Haskell's got a little bit in the mail today, saying, "Don't worry about the haka. It's 15 blokes dancing."
Now discuss. Should New Zealand be allowed to do the haka before a game?
Yeah, it's part of their culture. It's,
but
an
hang on a minute.
expression
We
of
don't
their...
just neck some fish and chips and start a fight outside a pub.
No, because
before
it's
a game,
not.
do we?
It's not beneficial.
Part of our culture.
It just happens to be that part of their culture is beneficial to them. Kind of putting across a mental barrier.
Owen Farrell's had 15 pints of Stella, which is part of his culture.
Well, right, this is it, though, okay? Can you then start a culture? Could we start our own one?
What of?
Well, I don't know, like S Club 7. Don't stop, never give up. Something like that, just to get the players going beforehand, and then they can do the haka. You know, they can go off. But do you know what I mean? Like, it is a bit strange.
Just putting S Club 7 on a par with thousands of years of Maori history.
No, but the point being is that
Who's got more number ones, Patrick?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But the point being is, like that, they do that. No one else does it, right?
No.
Well,
No one else does
some of the other Pacific Islands. Some of the other Pacific Islands do.
Oh, okay.
Do they?
Yeah, they do sometimes before a game. It's them. But it is just by definition. It is like. By the way, I love it.
Which specific? Be specific.
So you need to stop. So no, but this is the thing, isn't it? Because like I absolutely love it. Like it gives me goosebumps. I don't want to see the haka stopped. But just on paper, it is a bit weird, isn't it? In terms of okay, so if you just line up there and we spend the next 5 minutes really intimidating you, and then let's play rugby.
And you're allowed
and
to
you've
do
got
it.
to watch.
We're
you
not.
have to watch.
Well, this is why I'm saying, like, I'm obviously joking about S Club 7. I don't think that's going to strike fear into anyone. But I think then if they're allowed to do it, why don't we create something? Surely, like to make things fair. Doesn't that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's time for our listeners to come up with what should we do in response to the haka.
Yeah.
So what dances? What maybe Gangnam Style?
I mean, that would be amusing. I don't know if it strikes fear.
Or I'd just like it if Owen Farrell just did a dramatic reading.
Yeah, that would be a little bit.
Know? And now it's Keats's 15th sonnet, and then all the Kiwis just are lulled into a boredom-induced coma, and then we just beat them.
13 minutes to 9.
I like Putin. He gets me. I like Trump. I've got it. Giving your team the coverage they deserve. Love Sport Radio.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Hi, I'm Marilyn from Oxfordshire. My current insurance company quoted £245.08 to reinsure. And a spokesman said, obtain me a price of £173.49 for the same cover. This was a fantastic saving for me. And next time my car insurance comes up for renewal, I will be going through a spokesman said. No doubt about that.
With a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Making small changes to your lifestyle could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. Start now by taking our free How Are You quiz. Just search 1U.
Driving too close to the car in front gives you less time to react. You may not realise that you're tailgating. Leave a 2-second gap between you and the vehicle in front. When it's wet, leave a 4-second gap. By staying back, you give yourself time to react. Stay safe. Stay back. Highways England, connecting the country.
How are you? How are you really? Modern life can be busy, and sometimes it's easier to look after others before looking after yourself. But there's only 1U. And making small changes to your lifestyle now could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. So take the first step to a healthier you with our free How Are You quiz. See how you score and get personalised tips and support. From how to eat a little healthier to turning a 10-minute walk into exercise. Just search 1U.
This is Love Sport.
England lining up here against the All Blacks today, and Farrell now doing a twirl to this, and you can see the All Blacks are intimidated.
Pirouette there from Carl Sinclair.
There we go, as the All Blacks prepare for the haka. Yes, they are scared.
Yes, terrified, quaking in their boots.
Well, look, is that the answer? I mean, you guys, do you have a song? Let us know that England could dance to before they play the All Blacks.
The thing is, how do you deal with the haka? Because I've seen teams before turn their...
Just turn it up, Kieran. Tell you what, this gets you in the mood.
Turn their back on it, and like the New Zealanders get very angry about that, don't they? And so I and then do you get right in their face so that they do the right at the end when they do right in your face, like that with the tongue out.
I think it'd be that bit there. Bring it all back to you, and then they all point at a different New Zealand player to really strike fear in that particular player. We bring it all back to you, Kieran.
Yes, I thought I had entered the Love Sports Studios.
Probably a good job.
Turns out I meant Magic with Richard Lee and Patrick Christys. Coming up.
Can you just imagine, how easy our job would be, Richard?
Oh, do you know, I'm really frustrated. I'm watching you, because of course we're on YouTube, so everyone calls us on YouTube. We've actually got the highest number of viewers we've ever had, and it's showing me dance right now to that song. So there you go. You'll enjoy it.
Why do you think people are tuning in?
There's a correlation. Keep dancing. Keep dancing, Rich.
Throughout the song. Kieran.
Yeah. There's also some more kind of back and forth between the New Zealanders and England.
Right.
Because All Blacks lock Brodie Retallick, who's one of their best players, they've had a bit of a pop at him, right? Because Courtney Lawes, who's still in the England squad, in the last World Cup, Retallick referred to Courtney Lawes as Michael Lawes. It was 5 years ago, and James Haskell says, I remember how much it irritated us. I thought, cheers, mate, I've spent all week talking about you lot. I know the name of everyone in your team. After that match, which we lost, I walked past Retallick and said, learn our effing names next time, UP. So
there you go.
There you
and he
go.
said, who are you?
Yeah. All hell would have broken loose if the boot was on the other foot. If I come out and talked about Colin Retallick, then the Kiwis would have been trotting out the arrogant English line. So, yeah. Bit of Kiwi arrogance, anything wrong with that?
Well, no, not when you're the best team in the world. I mean, they are sensational. I'm really looking forward to us going toe-to-toe.
That's the lack of respect for their fellow athletes.
Well, hang on a minute. I mean, you could just get someone's name wrong, can't you? And I thought that intern was called Nick for about a month and a half.
Yeah,
I'm still not sure exactly what he is.
You still call him
Get him in
Nick?
there, Nick! Nick!
It's not
Nick,
funny
get in
anymore,
there!
is it, Kieran? I mean, it's
quite funny.
I mean, look, how would you like it if Nick goes to HR? I mean, Mark goes
That's
to...
me.
Huh?
You know that's me.
Are
I'm
you actually HR here?
Yeah, and Kieran's the firewarden.
Oh, my.
So we both have high-vis jackets.
What chance have we got? By the way, the viewing figures are going up.
Keep dancing,
No,
Nick!
I'm not dancing anymore. I am done. I am done.
Brody Retelic's hit back at this, right? According to the Mail, he got shirty yesterday, which is a word I don't use enough on the radio.
Shirty?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get a bit shirty.
People don't use that these days.
Larry.
Yeah. What other words you got? No, that's the vocabulary over.
Okay. So Retelic was accused of ignorance when he made the Michael Laws comment. Asked if that was still the case, a stone-faced Retelic replied, "Is that supposed to be humorous? I made a mistake, called them the wrong name, the name of a New Zealand politician. Good on you."
Yeah, but that's it, isn't it? It's a mistake. I mean, I remember watching Louis Van Gaal refer to Chris Smalling as Michael Smalling in front of him.
Which
as
is,
well.
yeah.
Which
That
was
was good.
shocking.
That was
actually.
so funny.
Did you hear apparently Bobby Robson just couldn't get players' names right?
Yeah, that's, yeah.
Well, it's the Joe Kinnear interview, isn't it?
Go on.
It's Joe Kinnear.
Oh, yes. That was good. Couldn't he call someone...
Johan Kebab?
Johan Kebab.
Ah, yeah, that's not okay.
There's some classics. I'm going to have to roll that out soon.
Yeah.
Because, black and white, we can relate it back to New Zealand.
Names are tough, though, I would say that.
The best Bobby Robson story is the one where it was the World Cup and the players are all waiting, like Gary Lineker, Gazza and all that lot. They're all waiting for Bobby Robson to come into this meeting room before and give them a talk, and they were about to play Germany. And Gary Lineker does a sweepstake and goes, "Right, I bet you a tenner that he mentions the war." And everyone was like, "Oh no, Gary, come on, he's not going to do that." Apparently Bobby Robson just walked in and went, "Right, lads, we beat them in the war." Oh, come on, Bobby.
Instant.
I mean, that gets people going, doesn't it?
It does. The name's one I'd say that is tough. How many times do you have it where you bump into someone that you haven't seen for a long time and you just have no idea what their name is?
Hi, mate.
You try exactly. You blag it for as long as you possibly can, waiting for a clue.
And have you ever had it where it turns out that actually neither of you know each other?
Yeah.
So I've had that a couple of times. And you just turn around and walk away.
Yeah, just try and find a way to get away. Okay, so this is how it's starting to hot up, isn't it? You get the feeling that's going to happen throughout the week. There's going to be more and more stories. Eddie Jones, will he begin the mind games at some point?
Well, Eddie Jones actually gets on with the New Zealand coach quite well.
Steve Hansen, yeah. So Steve Hansen has coached Wales and Canterbury, and basically Eddie Jones was in charge of the Brumbies when Steve Hansen was over there. So they have played each other quite a lot, and it means that their kind of record, Steve Hansen's record, is better when it comes to head-to-heads in their coaching career. Obviously, Michael Checker was blown out of the water on Saturday.
Oh, he was.
That's 7-0 now to Eddie Jones. But, yeah, Steve Hansen has the edge when it comes to coaching records, and his New Zealand record's phenomenal. 86.8 win percentage, won 92, drawn 5 and lost 9. Eddie Jones has lost 9 as well in charge of England, but has only won 49 in comparison to 92. So yeah, quite incredible really, and it's an imposing kind of even if they're not as good as they used to be. And I'm going to have to get it in a minute in the Telegraph. They did like a combined 11. There was a lot of stick because in the Man United Liverpool build up, it was just 11 Liverpool players, and Man United came out with some decent tactics and got the point that they probably came to get. But actually, a lot of the Telegraph journalists are putting more England players in their combined 15.
I think we've got a serious chance.
Well, we have got a serious chance.
And can we just, as a nation, agree that when we win the World Cup, we will actually celebrate it this time, and not, make them go to somewhere like, like a half-empty Twickenham, where there's just a bunch of school kids, like we did in the cricket.
Open top bus
parade.
Well, it's going to be
compulsory champagne for all.
Lovely.
Topless in Trafalgar Square's fountain.
And you doing a show naked.
Classic.
Yeah.
It's going to be a weird feeling because we've never won a World Cup in a major sport more than once. So obviously the Cricket World Cup, that was our first time.
Lovely little stat, yeah.
66. And now we could, actually go and win the Rugby World Cup.
Do you remember where you were, Johnny Wilkinson, that moment?
Yes, I was actually playing a football match away in Bury, which doesn't happen very often now.
Really?
Yeah, we won
Okay.
12-1.
Oh, wow. Do you remember where you were, Kieran?
I was in my front room. My dad had just had a serious bike accident.
Oh.
His arm was in a
Keep
sling.
it light, mate. Keep it light.
Well, no.
Taking a serious downturn.
His arm was in a sling, but it didn't stop him celebrating.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. He got straight up, punched in the air with his free arm.
Yeah.
Just waggling that little sling about. It was great.
He hasn't got any long-term damage, I take it.
No.
So
He's
that's good.
absolutely fine.
Finish this section on a positive. Lots to come. Do stay with us. You are listening to Love Sport. As always, get in touch. 0208 70 20 558. 3 minutes to 9.
Love Sport.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. Brexit will bring changes that affect businesses in many ways, particularly if you buy from EU suppliers, sell to EU customers, provide services to EU clients, and receive customer data from other businesses in the EU. Businesses need to prepare. Find out how at gov.uk/Brexit. Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October.
Hello, my name's Paula. I'm from the Shropshire area and I'm a business development manager. I use a spokesman said for my car insurance where I've saved over £500 and also on travel insurance as well. So in total, me and my family have saved about £600. I would definitely use it again and I would definitely recommend it.
With a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
When your kids are ill, you just want to help them feel better. But you don't always need antibiotics. Get advice from your local pharmacy or search NHS Choices.
You probably think you're pretty good at multitasking behind the wheel. I mean, you have to multitask to drive. So what's wrong with checking your phone? The thing is, your brain simply doesn't work. Even a quick look at a message, or firing off a quick reply, affects your concentration and makes you less able to react to hazards. If you use a mobile phone while driving, you're 4 times more likely to crash. Think. Put your phone away.
Love Sport Breakfast with you, Richard Lee and Patrick Christys, who just doesn't know anymore. We're going to be talking to Russ Milsom.
So wait, what you mean is when that red light's on, we're on air?
We're on it. It's
We're
incredible.
on air.
Right now.
Right now?
People are listening.
Oh, my gosh.
There you go. Russ Milsom, More Over podcast, will be coming on shortly. Andy Hampson, Man City Press Association reporter, will also be coming on. Of course, City play Atalanta tonight. Of course, Pep is very keen to win the Champions League. It's the one that's eluded him with City, so we'll be talking to him about that. As always, you can get in touch, 0208 70 20 558 if you want to give us a call or send us a WhatsApp. We try and read out as many as we possibly can at Love Sport Radio on the socials. And we are on YouTube these days. It's great to see so many of you tuning in and so many questions. Do keep them coming. Always great to hear from you. Do stay tuned. It's 9 o'clock.
On digital radio, online, mobile, and smart speaker.
This is Love Sport News.
From the Sky News Centre at 9, police investigating the death of teenager Harry Dunn, who was killed in a road crash in Northamptonshire in August, will travel to the US to interview the suspect. And Sakoulas left the country shortly after it happened, claiming immunity. The Foreign Secretary's promised to review the rules, but lawyer Rad Seeger, who represents Harry's family, disputes their legality.
The family's position all along has that this lady, the driver, never had diplomatic immunity. And they have clear legal advice that what the Foreign Secretary is saying is simply not true.
Some MPs have criticised the Prime Minister for trying to push through his Brexit deal by Thursday night. Boris Johnson is trying to rush through the legislation so that the UK can leave the EU by the October the 31st deadline. Green number plates could soon be introduced to identify zero-emission cars. It's hoped it will make it easier for authorities to incentivise using cleaner vehicles through measures like cheaper parking. Former Liverpool defender Jamie Carragher's apologised to Patrice Evra for supporting Luis Suarez after his teammate was accused of racially abusing him in 2011. Suarez received an 8-game ban for comments made during a match against Manchester United. It's claimed children are spending hundreds of pounds chasing their losses while playing video games. The Children's Commissioner for England says it should be classified as a form of gambling. Her report calls for tighter rules to protect kids. Simone Vibert, who carried carried out the research says so-called loot boxes are a particular problem.
One child had spent £300 this year trying to secure a certain item. Another kept on buying new loot boxes each time he didn't get what he wanted, so he'd opened 15 in a row at one point. So we're calling upon the government to regulate this kind of activity.
And England's been named the second best place in the world to visit next year. It's only beaten by Bhutan in the list compiled by guidebook firm Lonely Planet. That's the latest. I'm Kat Suave.
This is Love Sport.
Get the brands they love at littlewoods.com. Play FIFA 20 with friends. Get the Xbox One S dual controller bundle with FIFA 20 for an unmissable $199.99. All with inclusive delivery and free returns at littlewoods.com. Hurry, offer ends Thursday the 10th of October. Own it. Shop now at littlewoods.com.
Love Sport Radio. On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport Breakfast with Richard Lee and Patrick Christys.
Morning, Love Sport Breakfast on Love Sport Radio. Me, Richard Lee, and Patricio.
Thank you. We're just trying that out, are we?
Try it
Ricardo?
out. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I quite like
This
it.
kind of goes back to the old Eduardo Halzini.
Yes.
You know, if he was called that rather than Eddie Howe, maybe he's managing in the top six.
Definitely he's
If you're called
managing in the top
Patricio,
six.
what does that do to your life?
Wow, loads. Loads, you'd imagine.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, I'll let you stew on that. Let's touch on the headlines this morning. Arsenal fall out of the top four with a 1-0 away defeat to Sheffield United. Heightened dementia risk linked to footballers. This is all over the back pages today. Carragher apologised to Evra for Suarez t-shirt after fullback racially abused by the Uruguayan. Millwall appointed Gary Rowett as manager. Haringey versus Yeovil to be replayed this time next week. Manchester United eject a fan for alleged racist abuse towards a Liverpool player. And Van Dijk joins 7 Liverpool players on the Ballon d'Or shortlist. You are with me, Richard Lee. Patrick Christys here with you for another hour or so. Mr. Christys, what's going on the in the back pages?
Well, Mauricio Pochettino is admitting that he is actually under pressure at Spurs, and I think that's pretty clear to everybody. But I'm just not convinced by how much he still wants to be there. Clearly, Sheffield United beating Arsenal 1-0 is the big news of yesterday. And as you rightly said, Rich, as well, this dementia shock that footballers are 3.5 times more likely to die of brain diseases, especially if they were from an era where they were heading the heavy ball. There's a lot. Look, there was a bit of a point of controversy before about, because one of the solutions being proposed for this is that under 18s don't head the ball.
Yeah.
Now, I think that's nonsense, because I think you're going to end up in a. I just worry about the kind of creeping, the over safety of things. And we don't play with heavy balls anymore. There's no indication. We're not like running like little heading sweatshops where we get into getting children from the second they can walk. We make them do 1,000 headers a day. Like during the course of a football match, you will be heading a football, and if you don't want to do that, then don't play football.
Right, so I guess the argument will always be it's brain development, isn't it? Like when the brain's fully developed, then I guess at that point it's okay. The issue will be if you're heading the ball before that's the case. That's why the under 18. I made the point earlier. I think 18 is a bit steep, but I certainly think under 12s I get it. Also, the other part to it is, why are they heading the ball at 8-9 years old? Like if football's played the way it should be played and you're getting players, you're creating technical players that are comfortable with the ball at their feet looking to play, they can learn the art of heading at a slightly later age. And there is an art to it. Ronaldo being one of the best out there, I'd argue at the moment, there is a real art to heading a football, but they don't necessarily need to learn that at 7 years old.
Look, I just remain unconvinced by what the damage a modern football will do to a child who occasionally heads it.
But this is where we're reliant on science. You know, and I guess we've got to listen to the experts. Now, by the way, I'm saying this without knowing the findings, but just my intuition tells me that a 7-year-old shouldn't be heading a football. I think that, and I don't know, I'm saying 12, and I don't know why I've got 12 in my mind, but I feel that once you get to a certain age, then it's okay. But I go back to my point as well. We want to create technically gifted footballers. I hate the idea, and this was the case when I was a kid, by the way. Like, we did play long ball. At the age of 8 years old, I remember, it was just boot it as far as you can. You've got 8-year-olds heading the ball. That can't be good.
But then what happens? So then you go, right, you're not allowed to play rugby until you're 15 years old. At all. You're not allowed to play.
Well, actually, do you know what? Moving on nicely to rugby, because I'm going to talk about this.
Karate,
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu, all of these things. We just ban children from doing it just in case they hurt themselves. Kids are supposed to hurt themselves.
I'll tell you what.
I headed the ball every single day, and it never did me any harm.
We're going to come back to this. We're going to talk a bit of rugby now. Delighted to say we've got Russ Milsom, More Over podcast on the line. Morning, Russ.
Morning, gents. How's it going?
It's going well. First, let's hear from Eddie Jones, shall we, on Spygate.
Well, there's definitely someone in the apartment block filming, but it might have been a Japanese fan.
You didn't send anyone to go?
No, don't care, mate. Don't care. I think you've got a long-range camera, mate. Hey?
There's Eddie Jones there. What are your thoughts on that, Russ? He's made the point that he thinks that somebody's filming, I'm assuming, training. Your thoughts?
It's funny, isn't it? It reminds me a bit of that whole Leeds United saga and sort of Derby County from last year from the football. And ultimately, you're not going to see too much. If it is New Zealand or if it is a Japanese side, they're not going to get that much information from watching them do drills at training. If it was team run-throughs or later in the week, they might have seen something. But yeah, for me, it's a little bit more of Eddie Jones playing some games.
Which he likes to do. And are you expecting that this week, that the Eddie Jones bandwagon will start to generate a bit of pace? We'll hear a few of the mind games later on in the week?
I'm convinced of it. Although, obviously, he and Graham Henry, they've got a lot of mutual respect. And if you think back to the Lions and what Warren Gatland did when they went to New Zealand the other year, they seem to have a pretty good back and forth as far as mind games go. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to all of the build-up from the coaches this week.
Okay, well, look, let's just deal with the game itself, I suppose. I mean, we're all hoping that England can do the business, but it's going to be by far and away their toughest test yet, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. New Zealand are the best team in the world. I don't think there's any dispute in that. And they offer so much points of difference as far as game plan goes. They can rough it up and they can spin it out. I think England, they're obviously going to have to be 100% on their mettle, but it's not an insurmountable challenge, that's for certain.
Also, there was obviously the Wales-France game, and a French player got sent off for elbowing a Welsh player in the side of the head. But now the referee paper, I should say, has sparked controversy by posing with a load of Welsh fans, appearing to reenact the elbow. Have you seen this?
I have, yeah. I was laughing to myself yesterday. I mean, Vermaelen, the guy who got sent off for France, it was one of the most blatant red cards, and arguably one of the most stupid acts of foul play I've seen on a rugby field for quite some time. I mean, that was a red card 10, 15, 20 years ago. It was just ridiculous. But as far as the Jacko Piper thing's concerned, if we start expecting referees to sort of hide away, to not be humans, and maybe have a bit of a laugh and a joke, some might call it ill-judged. To me, I just think the right decision was made. He was probably got called over by a load of Welsh fans. They've had a photograph. There's no harm in it. There's no malice in it. Let them crack on. Personally, I don't want robots in charge of our game.
Yeah, fair point. I want to talk about Wales, South Africa. We'll do that in a sec. Just one more on England. Steve Hansen, Eddie Jones know each other well. Do you think this has any bearing on this game?
Not really. I think there's a lot of mutual respect between them. They both know what each other bring, and it's less about the coaches for me. I think we've got two superb teams. We'd love to have seen it as the final, but if you're gonna win the tournament, you've got to beat the best team. So it should all be about the teams for me.
Yeah, and just want to touch on Wales, South Africa, which also promises to be a very interesting semi-final. How big a loss is it to Wales' chances that Navidi is out?
It is a pretty big loss considering their depth in the back row. I mean, they've lost a couple of players in the lead up to the tournament. You think of Tulupi Falatau and Ellis Jenkins, who was playing amazingly for Cardiff. However, against South Africa, I think this potentially could be a little bit of a blessing in a weird way, because it's going to be an extremely physical encounter, and potentially, Ross Moriarty, at 8 for Wales would have been the correct decision anyway, although I could have seen Navidi playing elsewhere in the back row. He's a top player. He's been fantastic for Wales over the last 18 months or 2 years or so. So, they're bound to miss him.
Well, we can hear from Warren Gatland on Navidi's absence.
Josh has been one of our go-to players over the last two years, through the period we've been successful. Everyone's gutted for Josh. And obviously for myself, he's one of our best defensive players, so someone's got to step up into his position.
Have Wales got much of a chance in this game? Obviously, they weren't brilliant, it's fair to say, against the French. You do wonder, had that sending off not taken place, or not happened, whether Wales would have won that game. Do you think they've got much of a chance against South Africa?
Absolutely. I think this is an actual 50-50 balanced game for me. I mean, South Africa have grown into the tournament since that opening defeat to New Zealand, and they've looked very, very good. And they shut Japan down at the weekend with a really professional performance. They didn't give Japan absolutely anything. So I think they're two very similar teams. They both play a very similar sort of game. It's more of a power type game. There'll be a lot of collisions. There'll be a lot of forward play with the likes of the centres, Biolande and then Hadley Parks of Wales doing a lot of heavy ball carrying. I expect it to be an extremely tight affair with probably less than 25 points scored in the game. I think there'll be a lot of hard work done up front.
Fantastic. Russ, really appreciate you joining us.
Cheers, gents.
That's Russ Milsom there. More Over podcast, giving his thoughts on the two semi-finals. I'm excited about these semi-finals.
Yeah, I am too, as well. I don't want to jinx it, but I think we've got a good chance here.
We've got a good chance.
It just feels right. They're going to end up clipping this when we get royally spanked by the Kiwis.
This game's played 10 times. England, New Zealand. How many do England win? 10 times.
4.
Oh, do you think?
3.
I was going to say, I'd say 2 or 3. No, I'd say 2 or 3. So look, of course there's a chance. You just feel that ordinarily New Zealand do win this game, you would think. But look, if England do then progress to the final, then of course you'd certainly fancy England. I'd certainly fancy England against either South Africa or Wales. But don't get me wrong, I appreciate just how good both of those are as well. But it's going to be a fascinating final, whoever does make it.
No, look, I think fundamentally we can all agree that it's just great to get excited about the semi again.
Yes, indeed. It's been a while since we spoke about a semi, so we'll be talking more about the semi-finals in the coming week. Of course, England taking on New Zealand, Wales taking on South Africa. We're going to be speaking to Simon Rose, the Gooner, after this.
This is Love Sport.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October. This means that travelling to the EU will change. You'll need to check online if your passport is valid for travel to Europe. If you're planning on driving, you'll need to check if you have the right documents to drive and make sure your travel insurance covers all your healthcare needs. To keep your trip on track, check what you need to do at gov.uk/Brexit. Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October.
Stop paying too much for your energy bills. Brian saved money on his at aspokesmansaid.com. Can you?
I'm Brian from Swaddling Coat, South Derbyshire, and I saved about £400 on my energy bill with a Spokesman Said. The iSpokesman Said website was very easy to use, and the money I saved I put towards a holiday.
Compare home energy quotes from the UK's biggest suppliers in just a matter of minutes with aspokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
There are fewer than 10 days to get ready for Brexit. Find out what you need to do to prepare now at gov.uk/Brexit.
Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident and save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel, and oil. Highways England, connecting the country.
I'd never be a vegetarian. I think that is a huge mistake. Mistake. So clever. So funny.
Love Sport.
Last for breakfast, me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys here with you for another 45 minutes or so. Then the brilliant Martin Bell is up after us. Of course, Sheffield United had a big win last night at Bramall Lane, beating the Arsenal 1-0. Delighted to say we've got Simon Rose, the Gooner, on the line to pick the bones out of this one. Morning, Simon.
Good morning.
Morning. Not a particularly good night for Arsenal last night. They've obviously dropped out of the top four as well. What did you make of the performance, first and foremost?
I thought Sheffield United played very well. We certainly didn't. Bramall Lane, very nice ground. The support was very strong for Sheffield United, very vocal. They put a lot into it, as did their team. And as I anticipated, Arsenal were very limited, didn't do enough to respond to Sheffield United's attacks. We looked capable of conceding some set pieces, and we duly did. Mousse, who barely even played for Bournemouth last season, plays against us and scores a goal unmarked in front of the goal. I mean, it's sort of pitifully weak stuff from Arsenal. It's not a surprise. I wasn't surprised. I was disappointed. We had a lot of the game to respond, and if you're a particularly good team, you respond and you win the game. And we barely made chances. And like I say, it wasn't a surprise.
Yeah, just some stats here. Arsenal have kept just 2 clean sheets in their 24 Premier League away games under Unai Emery. Arsenal have not won a Prem game, away game, I should say, when they were losing at half-time for 8 years. Is there that old adage of Arsenal have got a little bit of a soft underbelly? Is that kind of back again now, do you think?
It's a simple way of putting it. I mean, people have often said, certainly under Wenger, people said we had no plan B, but I think a lot of fans' concern at the moment is that we have no discernible plan A. Right. We just go backwards and forwards across the side of the pitch. We don't really find our attacking players. You look at teams like Liverpool and City, have really excellent, fast attacking players, and you can look at Arsenal's front three, albeit Lacazette couldn't start the game, and ultimately our front three compared with any decent team's front three. It's just that we can barely get the ball to them. Pepe last night, I thought he had one of his best games for us. He was quite incisive, trying to get the ball to teammates. I would still like to see more licence from him to cut inside and shoot. It's not as if he's getting much movement from his teammates to be licensing them with opportunities. I'd like to see him being a bit more selfish. But really, with Arsenal, Emery came in after, of course, Wenger was there for a long time, and he's been given a lot of patience by fans. But last season followed the pattern of previous years of our away form disappearing in the second half of the campaign. We dissolved to nothing towards the end of last season. We're pitiful in the second half of the Europa League final. We made a lot of transfers in the summer, and things are not really changing. I didn't this season want to see Emery at the side of the pitch grimacing at things. I wanted to get a sense that he's more in control. No one understands why he's not playing Torreira, so we have no defensive shield in front of the defence from midfield. The situation with Ozil is really just pitiful. But can he really not be better than what we're offering in these games? We have such good attacking players, but we can't find them. There's a real conundrum there, which is not getting solved.
Yeah, there's a lot you've touched on there. The one I want to go back to, you mentioned Pepe, and I've only seen him a handful of times this season myself. I saw him, was it away at Watford in particular, a couple of other times. I can't see it. I mean, at the moment, and look, like you mentioned last night, it was the best that I've seen him play. I'll give you that. But I mean, you go back to the price tag, and I know you don't want to necessarily put players under additional pressure, but £72 million. What have Arsenal fans made of him so far?
There's a mixed feeling. There's some people who'll always be more patient than others. Some are concerned that he might be a bit like a Gervinho Mark II, somebody who doesn't really know when to release the ball and doesn't really score. Personally, I think he's shown lots of flashes of skill. His fantastic change of pace. He's got past people. He's got himself into positions where something could then happen in the final third. And either he's not shown enough confidence to have the shot himself, or he's not got enough to pass it to. You often hear, players come into the British League and it can take 5-6 months to settle. And then if a player isn't playing that well early on, they get talked down as if they're not good enough. Well, it's one or the other. I think he's improving, but our whole play just is not good enough. There's, when you see patterns of Arsenal being so awful away from home, particularly was the second half of the season, we're not even in the second half yet, you have to look at the manager and say, what is he doing to change the nature of how we're playing? How is he setting the team up? How is he impacting the team when it's not going well? And he isn't impacting this team. Now, to my mind, I always backed Wenger in the sense that I liked him and we had been successful with him, and I never thought Arsenal were going to sack him. So if he kept getting new contracts, he was going to be there till the contracts ended. But once you end that cycle and you have a different guy in charge, then you reset that clock. And I don't see really why you would give a manager an inordinate new amount of time in which to just keep failing if you're just consistently failing. Someone at the club has to look at what we're doing in terms of Emery and decide, is this enough? And at most clubs, when you have an international break, that's often the time when things get looked at and it's decided if the manager should stay and somebody else should come in. And you've got to look at Arsenal and say we've got 2 perfectly winnable home games against Palace and Wolves before the next international break. And I think he needs to make a big impact in those 2 games, Emery, because I think a lot of people will be saying, why are we holding on to this guy?
Yeah, well, interesting. On that note, let's hear it from Emery. He said Arsenal's still a developing side.
We have challenge in each match, and for example, tonight a very big challenge to achieve that 3 points, and also be consistent and continue improving things and doing our way, playing with some young players. They are taking experience.
To talk about Arsenal as being a developing side, is that an acceptable excuse from Emery?
It's not. To me, it's a bit of flannel. What he said, that doesn't really mean anything. You can say what you like after the game, but the performance itself speaks for everything. And there just isn't enough of a performance from Arsenal, particularly away from home. We don't seem to know how to get the ball to Aubameyang. Lacazette obviously has been injured. He came back last night. Aubameyang completely came to life as soon as Lacazette was there. He was barely awake before Lacazette came on. And we can only hope Lacazette will stay fit. He took a couple of kicks to his ankles last night, nice and quickly from Sheffield United. We only hope that Lacazette stays fit and they can play. We can only hope that Tierney is allowed to start playing and that Bellerin is being fit enough to play. And we move to what I would hope is at the back 4 of Tierney and Chambers and Holding at the back, and then Bellerin on the right-hand side, because Kolasinac and Luiz and Socrates are not going to get better, and they clearly aren't good enough. I mean, what was pitiful last night was a number of times Sheffield United came forward, breaking away when we were attacking and doing nothing, and it's Guendouzi who's racing back to try and clear the lines. It's not Socrates or Luiz. They can't get there. Now, what does that say to the opposition? It says to the opposition, have a go at Arsenal because you can stretch them. All this rubbish of playing at the back, it's a nonsense. Every single team we play basically chases down the goalkeeper and defenders and fancies their chances. Now, if you're giving that chance to opposition, you're giving them half a reason to believe they're going to get something out of you. Why do it? What's the point? You don't see other teams do it and fail and keep doing it, and really Arsenal have got to move away from it.
Yeah, I did watch the Watford game, and it got embarrassing in the second half, I have to say. The amount of times they looked to play out and just got caught over and over, and obviously in the end it was quite costly. Just a quick word on Saka. Obviously there was an incident where he thought he should have had a penalty, ended up getting booked for diving. What did you make of that?
Well, I was at the far end. To me, it looked like an absolute penalty. I mean, people were incredulous that we didn't get a penalty, and he then got booked. I've not seen it back. I've heard some people suggest he overdid it. I don't know. There was an incident after Sheffield United scored right in front of us. So one of their guys, I think the right back, you could see he was just going to go down and hope to get the crest of the wave of the fact they scored a goal and get a penalty. And no one's bothered about that. I think that I was surprised that Saka and Willock played. This is Sheffield United away in a very nice stadium with a lot of vociferous home support. Midweek, when you've got another game in 3 days' time, I was surprised that Saka and Willock played. I think really a home game for them is much better, the game we got on Thursday night. I think Saka did okay, particularly as the game grew on, but Willock went off at half-time. Arsenal fans cannot understand why Torreira is not playing. When he has played, he's played forward, when he should be the defensive shield in midfield. Once again, Xhaka was totally AWOL. He didn't ask the guy who scored the goal. People don't understand why he's the captain. They don't understand why he's in the team. I get why he's the captain, because really he's captain of Switzerland and he was the captain at Borussia Mönchengladbach. We haven't really got many others who compare to that. But he's not really good enough in this team. And like when we had Wenger, you look at this team and you think, in very simple terms, could a different coach get better out of these players? And I think the answer is yes. Now, it's not easy just to sack people. And okay, who would you bring in? You can't necessarily assume that, say, Allegri would want to come. I still look at Eddie Howe at Bournemouth and I think he's a perfect Arsenal man. As to whether or not Arsenal had the stomach to actually change anything in Emery until the end of the season, I very much doubt. But how much more is it going to drift? How many more seasons do you want to waste when you could be doing better?
Simon, appreciate your points. Simon Rose there from the Gooner, giving his thoughts on Arsenal last night. Of course, disappointing night for Arsenal, going down at Bramall Lane 1-0 to Sheffield United.
I'm not being funny, but it's years since Arsenal won a title, isn't it? Yeah. And I think Arsenal fans still talk about the club like it is what it was. And it's all very well and good saying, get rid of Emery. Well, all right, and who do you get in? And then he's just rattled off there a load of players that he says aren't good enough, so you've got to move them on, and you've got to get some more in. At what point do Arsenal fans just have to come to the realisation that they do support an average side?
Wow. Okay. What do you guys think? 0208 70 20 558. Look, the point is, I guess with this, United have got a similar thing going on as well, haven't they?
Yeah.
Where it's, you have the transitional period, who knows how long it will take. And actually, if you're going to really back a manager, this is the other part to it, and no one really does this anymore. Of course, Sir Alex, actually, they did it with him, but it was a completely different era back then. He would have been sacked in today's game had he have started the way he did with Manchester United. They gave him seasons before he was able to get it right. But if you're going to truly back a manager, you're probably talking 6 transfer windows before you can fully put in place your squad. Because you've got to deal with the length of contract that players will be there, and they're not necessarily all going to want to move. You can't force a player to move. So by the time you get your team in place, you're talking maybe 6 transfer windows, maybe 3 years. So much is going to happen within those 3 years. To actually make it through that unscathed is near impossible.
I reckon that the actual role of a manager is overrated.
Okay.
Because, realistically, it just seems like a lottery.
Well, this is why more are going to a model whereby the manager doesn't necessarily choose the players. And you'll have a recruitment department that will choose that, and that will be directed by the club. The philosophy, Brentford do this very well, the philosophy is directed by the club, not the manager. The manager then is interchangeable. The manager effectively is a motivator, is somebody who's brilliant man management who then selects a team, but ultimately their role is limited. Whereas the old school overarching Sir Alex Ferguson or Arsene Wenger, you don't see them that much these days.
Yeah.
And I think it's a way to go because, as you mentioned, otherwise you bring in a new manager and you have a 3-year turnaround period, at which point you decide, oh, actually, they weren't right, and you start again. And you've got another transitional period. So you kind of feel with Unai Emery, they certainly haven't given him enough time, if that's the long-term plan, because I'm sure that it still isn't quite his team.
I mean, do Arsenal fans remember the last time they didn't want a manager sacked? It just seems like it's been going on for absolutely ages, whether it was Wenger or whether it's this. They don't seem to know any other way.
Again, what do you guys think? Get in touch on YouTube. Get in touch on WhatsApp. 0208 70 20 558. 29 minutes past 9.
This is Love Sport.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
It's cancer, they said. My first thought, let's just say it wasn't money, but time off work for treatment and trips to the hospital, paying the mortgage, and the cost of living doesn't go away just because you're living with cancer, and Macmillan can help with that too. My advice? Take their advice, soon as I did.
Macmillan, right there with you. Call 0808 808 0000 now.
Can you save money on your car insurance? Chris did, with a little help from a spokesmansaid.com. Getting real people, real savings.
I'm Chris from Leicestershire, a truck driver. I went on a spokesman's set, which was very straightforward and easy to use for an old git like myself, and saved over £300 on my car insurance.
Find quotes from over 100 leading insurance providers at a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Making small changes to your lifestyle could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. Start now by taking our free How Are You quiz. Just search 1U.
If you see somebody showing any of the signs of a stroke, you don't have to think about it, you just dial 999. Use the FAST test. F. Face. Has their face fallen on one side? Can they smile? A. Arms. Can they raise both arms and keep them there? S. Speech. Is their speech slurred? T. Time. Time to call 999 if you see any one of these signs. Act fast, make the call, dial 999.
Love Sport.
Love Sport Breakfast, me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys, for another half an hour or so. And then, of course, Mr. Martin Bell is up next, so you don't need to go anywhere. You can stay tuned to Love Sport all day, every day, and just enjoy life. We're going to be talking a bit about Man City.
Quit your job. Why not?
There you go. I'm just giving you the solution.
Split up with your missus, just quit your job, move into your mum and dad's spare room, and just listen to Love Sport all day, every day.
And you will live a happy existence. We're going to be talking Man City shortly. We've got Andy Hampson coming on, Man City Press Association reporter. Of course, they do take on Atalanta tonight in the Champions League.
Where is it?
Where is it? Where is what?
Atalanta. Sorry, carry on.
Oh, Patrick. We're going to be talking Champions League. Delighted to see the Champions League back, I bet.
Yes. Well, I mean, not City fans, of course. They don't bother turning up to watch it.
No, but Pep wants this, doesn't he? This is...
Of course he does, yeah. But it's bonkers, isn't it? That you could, there seems to be an odd thing with City fans where I think at United it was always the one to go after the European Cup, whereas with City fans, I think they seem more inclined to want to win the league, I think.
Well, there's reasons for that. In fact, Andy might touch on that. Andy Hampson, Man City Press Association reporter, is on the line. Morning, Andy.
Yeah, good morning.
Morning. Obviously, big game for City, but quite a tough game. Atalanta going well in Serie A at the moment. In fact, we spoke to Rich Hall from Football Italia earlier, and he gave us a bit of a background on Atalanta, and they do look like they'll pose some problems for City tonight, but we'd expect City to come through this.
Right, yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, Atalanta seem to have found the Champions League a bit tricky so far. They've lost both of their games. As you say, they're doing fairly well in Serie A. They finished third last year. They're running third again this season. So they're obviously no mugs. And their coach, Gianpiero Gasperini, from what I gather, seems to be a fairly shrewd tactician and an advocate of attacking football. But really, I think City, they're back on the horse now after the little stumble towards the end of... before the international break. Good win at Crystal Palace. I think they should ease through the gears tonight and get the job done.
Just on that, do you think that Pep is really targeting the Champions League over the league this year?
Well, it's hard to say really, because whenever you ask him, he doesn't make any difference between the two. Or if anything, if he's pushed, he would say the Premier League would be the priority. But I think really in his heart of hearts, the Champions League is the one he says is the most beautiful competition. That is really the one he wants to win. That's where the glory is now for him. Really, he's done it twice with Barcelona, but it's a long time ago now. He wants to do it again. He's done everything else with City, so I think the Champions League will be the priority. I don't think we'll quite see it yet. And when we get into the second half of the season, we get to March, April, and the games are coming thick and fast. If they're still behind Liverpool and there's a bit of a gap to make up, maybe they will start to prioritise the Champions League, and we'll start to see them rotate players in favour of the Champions League games rather than the other way around. Well, that's to come. Obviously, it's got the other two cup competitions. We need to see how well they do in them as well. If they're still in all four again, come April, May, well, who knows which they'll go for.
It's been an interesting season, this, for City so far, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I watched the game against Watford, and they were just, I've never seen 18 minutes worth of football like that. The first 18 minutes, they were just phenomenal. And several games this season, they've been phenomenal. But for Man City, they've certainly dropped a lot more points than they would have liked. And even the game against Palace, Ederson was called into action a couple of times second half, and they did deserve to win, but certainly wasn't quite as comfortable as maybe they would have wanted. Is it fair to say that they've yet to really kick into top gear?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that Watford game does stand out. They were absolutely outstanding that day. But Guardiola himself said after the game on Saturday that he was frustrated towards the end that they didn't make the most of the number of opportunities that they did have. They were winning 2-0, and Gabriel Jesus probably would have passed, I should say, to Kevin De Bruyne if it had been 0-0. But he wanted to get the goal himself. He doesn't know how many opportunities he's going to get because he's behind Sergio Aguero in the pecking order. Maybe he was a little bit selfish for his own means there. But yeah, I do think that there's a point there. But I do think City are they're a great team, and I think they probably will be back at the top speed soon.
There's a couple of players that should be back for the game, Kyle Walker and Otamendi, and I believe John Stones is back in training as well. So obviously there's been a lot made of City's defensive issues, the amount of injuries that they've had, but having these players back will make a big difference.
Yeah, I don't expect Stones and Otamendi to come back in tonight. Stones was on the bench at Crystal Palace, didn't get on the field. But he's been a big miss, and Otamendi as well was very unfortunate because Aymeric Laporte is out until February, so they're really running short of defenders. But Fernandinho and Rodri do look competent centre halves. It's not their preferred position, and they're probably not world class in that position, but they can certainly do a decent job there. But the sooner Stones and Otamendi are back in action together, obviously, the better. They've not been a great partnership, to be honest with you, but they are specialist defenders, and they need to work on their partnership. And I expect them both to play tonight.
Something I just want to touch on. So we talked earlier about the Ballon d'Or. The shortlist has been named. 7 Liverpool players, which is more than Man City players, interestingly. Hugo Lloris is one of the players, but there's no Ederson. What do you make of this?
Well, that's very interesting. I suppose the problem is for Ederson is that the team is so good. He doesn't get tested all that often because City have so much of the ball. It's very hard for opponents to get opportunities. But yeah, I think Ederson is an absolutely brilliant goalkeeper, and we certainly see when he's got the ball at his feet, he's absolutely wonderful. The way he sprays passes around as if he's a midfield player is just something to behold, really. I suppose it probably comes down to how much he's actually tested at his day job, and that's saving shots. We don't see a lot of Ederson doing that, although obviously we did it on Saturday late in the game against Crystal Palace. I think it's Everton a few weeks ago. We made some absolutely top-notch saves. He really is a fine keeper.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. Andy, really appreciate you joining us. Andy Hampson, Man City Press Association reporter, giving us his thoughts on City at the moment. Of course, they do face Atalanta in the Champions League. A little stat for you, Patrick. Man City only faced 8 shots in their 2 Champions League matches so far this season, which is 7 fewer than any other team.
Wow.
Thanks for your reaction. It is appreciated. Let's move on to a little bit of rugby. Let's hear from our man, Eddie Jones.
Put up your hand if you think we can win. There you go. So no one thinks we can win. There's 120 million Japanese people out there whose second team are all the All Blacks. So there's no pressure on us. We're just got to have a great week, enjoy it, relax.
Well, I mean, he asked that question and everybody here in the studio put their hand up.
Yeah, I have my hand up.
I mean, Eddie, I don't know if you're quite looking around.
Yeah, it sounds a little bit of a rigged thing, was it? Because he obviously knew what result he wanted to get. So it's like, okay, everybody, if you think we can win, put your hands up. Nobody, right? Okay, excellent. Nobody did it. So yeah, it was a bit forced.
He had the answer ready, and he even had the stat.
Just everyone there with their hand up. Absolutely nobody. Nobody thinks we can win.
Yeah,
No.
Eddie, can't see me over here. Eddie, I'm here.
Hello, Eddie.
Yeah, I think you will. I think you've got a great chance.
Yeah.
He also said there's no value in spying anymore.
Look, you just don't need to do it anymore, mate, because you see everything. You can watch everyone's training on YouTube or whatever there is. There's everything out there. There's no value in doing that sort of thing now. Absolutely zero.
Of course, this is because he thinks, or he certainly made a comment that he thinks someone's been filming his training. But I guess it's slightly different. Is it different rugby and football? I know we had the whole
one's
Leeds
played with 11 players with the round ball, and the other one is 15 aside with an egg-shaped ball.
It can be so tough sometimes, Patrick. We sit here for 3.5 hours. There are times when I think we really connect, and then there are times when I just, I look at you and you don't want to know what I see. And what I'd love to do. Okay, so are the differences between, other than the obvious, are the differences between rugby and football in that by watching a team prepare for a game of football, and it might be that you change formation, style of play in order to adapt and certain players that you'll play to counteract what the opposition are going to play. If you were to know the starting lineup 2 or 3 days beforehand in football, and you were to know the formation they were going to play, then that would give the advantage to the other team.
It's little things. So if you can see something that you might not have otherwise seen, i.e. that a particular player has a particular strap on one of his legs or one of his shoulders or something like that, then I think you can get the little minutiae, so you will know, actually, hang on a minute, he's got a weak left shoulder.
Right, I see.
Let's crush him.
Kieran has something to add.
I do, and I just want to add to the fire that Eddie Jones has fueled with these quotes. Of course, England fell agonisingly short of beating New Zealand in the autumn internationals last year, lost by 1 point. A Sam Underhill disallowed try prevented England from coming out on top, and he suggested that his side has prepared for this fixture since the draw 2 years ago. So he said, you've got the top 4 teams in the world now, and on one Saturday, you've got to be the best team for 80 minutes. We've prepared for this game for 2.5 years. We are just excited by the possibility. He also made a jibe about the New Zealand media, claiming that its rugby reporters are just fans with keyboards. Asked whether he believed New Zealand would read his comments. Well, someone has to ask some questions because the New Zealand media doesn't. You guys are just fans with a keyboard. So someone has to ask them some questions on what is going on. So yeah,
there you
strong
go.
stuff.
You've been working on that.
It's a good job he's not Indian, isn't it? Be in real trouble here now. Be in massive trouble.
Yeah, I would be able to do such a spot on impersonation.
Well done, actually. It was like he's in the room.
Indeed. We're going to focus obviously on England. So England, after the last game against Australia, that'll again give huge belief. And it's interesting, it wasn't that long ago that we lost 5 games in a row, is it really? So to be in this position now, going into a semi-final, I know you made the point that our game... You don't know what I'm going to say.
All right.
Our game against France was called off.
But all right.
Our game against France was called off because of the Super Typhoon, of course. Now, with that being called off, you made the point at the time that might be a negative, because we wouldn't have that big game going into the quarterfinal. It turns out it may well have been a positive because we had a bit of extra rest, and we have now had that big game, which we've got through convincingly. You're not sure?
Well, Australia wasn't a big... Like, they were terrible. They were shocking, right? I feel like any club rugby team could have gone out and beaten the Aussies.
Really?
They were shocking.
That's obviously not true.
I was going to say, that seems like a slight exaggeration.
Straight out the Patrick Christys handbook, that. of wild speculation.
Wild
really
comments.
forceful
with
opinion.
no founding.
I just feel Michael Checker's tactics were ridiculous, right? And they just tried to play they tried to play with ball in hand wherever they didn't kick at all. And England just thought, well, we're just going to put it into your territory. You're going to try and run from deep, and we put them under pressure. New Zealand aren't going to be that naive. I just think it was a great morale boosting result, and I'm very happy about that, of course, and I was cheering every try. But I don't think Australia were that big a test. This is the one, isn't it? This is the one.
So, okay, if England then had enough of a test going into this game, or do you still think had we played that France game, do you think we'd be in a better position now?
I do. I genuinely do, because France pushed Wales really close, and it would have been a physical battle. I don't think, as much as the Australia game was physical in its own way, I actually think we controlled the game from start to finish. That is not going to be the case in this New Zealand game. We've not had enough periods in this World Cup where we've had to show really strong defence. The first 10 minutes of that Australia game was a good example, and I think that was a decent test in terms of we've not had to do that yet in this World Cup, and we did have to show some defensive quality, but I don't think we've shown enough so far.
Yeah. Well, look, I think the main point is that England are preparing for this by going to Disneyland.
Yes.
Which is actually happening. So England are genuinely going to Disneyland, and rooms such as the Happy Magic Room can cost £2,000 a night. So that's interesting. Have you ever been into the Happy Magic Room, Rich?
No, I haven't stayed at a Disney hotel.
Right.
It's fair to say. Have you been there?
I've been to a few Happy Magic Rooms in my time. Yeah.
Have you? You like Disney, yeah?
What?
Okay. I see where this is going. 17 minutes to 10.
Love Sport Radio, the station giving fans a voice.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
It's cancer, they said. My first thought, let's just say it wasn't money, but time off work for treatment and trips to the hospital, paying the rent, and. The cost of living doesn't go away just because you're living with cancer, and Macmillan can help with that too. My advice? Take their advice. Soon as. I did.
Macmillan, right there with you. Call 0808 808 0000 now.
When looking for the best possible deal for his car insurance, Jim went on a spokesmansaid.com and saved hundreds.
I'm Jim. I'm a radio presenter based in Glasgow. I couldn't believe how expensive the car insurance for our Citroen C4 Picasso was going to be from my existing insurer. I went on a Spokesman Said and saved an incredible £600. Just amazing.
Find quotes from over 100 leading insurance providers at a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
When your kids are ill, you just want to help them feel better. But you don't always need antibiotics. Get advice from your local pharmacy or search NHS Choices.
Whoa! Look how much saturated fat is in these chocolate biscuits. It's surprising how much is in our food and drinks. For us kids, eating too much saturated fat can lead to harmful fat building up inside, which we can't see, increasing the risk of heart disease or stroke when we get older. So be food smart. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app and start making healthier choices today.
One thing I've learned is never judge a book by its movie. I'm joking, I never read.
This is Love Sport.
This is Love Sport Breakfast. Me, Richard Lee, Patrick Christys. Martin Belt is up after us in about 15 minutes' time. Do stay tuned for that. Fantastic show, as always. And for the last little bit of our show, we welcome in Mr. Kieran Wellington, who brings us gifts.
I bring you, well, it depends whether you think this story is a gift. Well, it's a gift to us broadcasters because we get to absolutely slam this particular person.
Okay.
I like doing that.
Paula Radcliffe. Yeah. She has said that Salazar broke the rules, right? So this is obviously in reference to his ban for copious amounts of drug use.
Yeah.
But there is nothing against any of his athletes, which, of course, as a coach of many athletes, he's not going to use the drugs on his athletes, is he? Yeah. He's only used them on his kids.
Yeah.
I mean, what a stupid woman.
Wow. We've just gone from 0 to 100. That was 0 to 100.
Sorry.
That escalated.
Sorry, Paula. Great athlete.
Tremendous athlete, yeah.
Great athlete. And, she obviously doesn't hold the world record anymore for the marathon, so there's that.
Rub that in. That escalated very quickly.
That did escalate quickly, but...
Nike athlete, of course.
Yeah.
Paula
This is it. So
husband, coach Mo Farah.
This is it. So her husband coaches Mo Farah. Right. She is, of course, a Nike athlete. And this is what I don't quite understand, because previously Paula Radcliffe, earlier on in her career, was very, very outspoken when it came to drugs cheats, saying that, we need to get them out of the sport, that there's no place for it, they should have lifetime bans. And then now she's got a little bit older, and her husband's training Mo, and she's got quite a lucrative deal with Nike. That's changed. And I question, what evidence do you really need, Paula? Because in the apartment that Mo Farah shared with Alberto Salazar in the run-up to London 2012 Olympics, they found illegal substances. Alberto Salazar has been banned for administering and transporting illegal substances. Numerous athletes of the Nike Oregon project have failed drugs tests. I mean, what more do you want? Yeah. There's no other walk of Paula Radcliffe's life where she would adopt exactly the same approach. If her husband kept coming home late and smelling of somebody else's perfume, eventually she'd go, well, just because I haven't actually seen you cheat on me, I am now very, very suspicious of it. But with this case, she's going, well, I haven't seen anyone do the doping, so it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. Oliver Brown with the exclusive interview, great interview. One of our favourite phrases in here.
Wait a second.
Go on.
Give me a clue.
It's alliterative in nature.
It's alliterative.
2-word phrase.
Oh, double down.
It is.
Is it? Yes, get in.
Get in there, Patrick.
Right, see you all next week.
Alrighty. Yeah.
Bye now.
So,
Patrick, you're contractually obliged to
come
turn
back,
up
please,
tomorrow. Tomorrow, Thursday and Friday.
Yeah, sorry, I actually need to pay rent.
Okay, he's back.
Okay. So 3 weeks on from her remarks in Doha that the US anti-doping agency was, quotes, trying maybe to regain a little bit of face, close quotes, by throwing Alberto Salazar
regaining
out of
a bit
athletics.
of face in the same way that Anne Robinson regained a bit of face.
Not quite that way, no. One's more physical, one's more metaphorical.
Okay.
It says here she's doubling down. My views were based on the fact that I've been unfairly treated in the past by people making judgments not supported by facts. So she's saying that because she's had, abnormal blood results, that didn't prove anything, that the athletes should suffer should be dealt with in the same way, which is fair enough, isn't it?
Okay, it looks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. All right,
there you go.
It's as simple as that.
Look, no. I get it, innocent until proven guilty, but of course it goes back to it. There's a massive dark cloud hanging over every single athlete that's ever been trained by Salazar. It's as simple as that. Now, how you can then prove 100%, and it might be, by the way, it might be so unfortunate that actually you had no idea that this was going on and you were completely clean your entire career, and now you've got this dark cloud. Do you know what? That is completely unfair. I agree, but it is what it is. What can you do? It is what it is. It's unfair, but it's
better. It would be better if somebody like Paula Radcliffe just went, actually, the biggest coach in athletics. So, just out of interest, can you name another athletics coach?
No.
Can you?
Nope.
Right, so he's the biggest coach in athletics, and he's just been banned for institutionalised doping. That's an issue in the sport. Address it.
Right, okay. And you're right, and they're going to do that. So, right, if you're an athlete that's been coached by him and you are innocent of all of this. You've never done anything wrong. You've never stepped over the line, and you've got a good track record. You've won medals.
See what you did there?
See what I did?
Yeah.
You've won medals, etc., etc. Now, what do you do if you're in that position? Because I can imagine you're like, you must be so frustrated by this. That's the bit that got me, though. The interviews with Mo Farah didn't quite line up with that. It was like he was more going along the lines of, "Oh, I've seen this happen to Raheem Sterling. I've seen this happen
to me."
Well,
and it's not.
Which I'm not.
It's
just coming back to the Radcliffe interview. Obviously, Oliver Brown asks Paula about those comments from Mo Farah. And she said, "I saw the huge pack of journalists around Mo. He was already uncomfortable. He was trying to get ready for his race. He never accused them of racism. He just picked the first two famous people he could think of who happened to be black. And then he had words put in his mouth."
This is just bonkers, isn't it? Yeah. This is just absolutely nuts. This reminds me of, that Little Britain sketch. And I was just walking across Hampstead Heath in the dead of night, and I just fell over. And before I knew it, my trousers were around my ankles, and Henry was on top of me. That's all I've got to say about that. It's just nuts, isn't it? It's like, oh no, Mo wasn't accusing anyone of being racist. He just pointed at two people who had suffered racist abuse and used them as an example and kind of alluded to the fact that people were being racist.
What do you do, right, if you're one of these athletes, though, and you genuinely are completely innocent? Is there any way you can, let's say, clear your name? Your name is clear, I get that. Innocent until proven guilty, but there is this dark cloud. Is there any way of removing the dark cloud?
No, because athletics has tarnished its own image. It's gone too far now. Like, the IOC needs to do more. Seb Cohn needs to not bury his head in the sand and refer to great viewing figures at the best World Athletics Championships they've ever had in Qatar. Like, it's just, they're focusing on all the wrong things because they know it's such a prickly issue. They need to address it head on, and they need to show some guts and actually say, athletics is in a bad place. This is what we're going to do to make it better. This is what we have been doing. Come and join us and follow us.
Thing is, they're all towing the party line because I suppose you talk about PR for anything, it'll be a case of keep speaking positively, because people believe what they read, people believe what they hear, so they're continually hearing the good stuff. Then at some point that might have an imprint on their psyche, and of course they then take on that belief. But the problem is there's so much going on elsewhere that it's hard to see that when this isn't being addressed, or it doesn't feel like it's being addressed in the way that it should.
Yeah, it just annoys me, though, that people seem to get into a position of power like that, or a position. So Steve Cram does this. That guy's got a very punchable face, I think. He does this where he goes, there'll be a massive story, a la Mo Farah, and go, oh, well, it's a good story for the media. You are the media, Steve, mate. You are. And, like, just because they've got, they're in a position where they're kind of one of the suits now, I just find it annoying.
I get that. But Rich, you can only speak. You're the only person in this room that can speak about this from personal experience. Do you ever feel like you have split loyalties between people like us in the media, right? And we have to tell the story as we see it, and also a protection of your sport?
Of course. That's the point. Is that I think though, and it can be easy to be blinded by that because like, if you're with a. Naturally, if you're with... do you know what? There's an interesting one. This is changing the subject slightly, but it's a great point, is Jamie Carragher's come out and apologised last night to Patrice Evra. Now, what happened? Jamie Carragher was wearing a Luis Suarez T-shirt where they all supported Suarez at the time without necessarily maybe wanting to, but it was, I'm guessing, the club saying, right, we're going to support our man, you're all wearing T-shirts. What do you do? Do you then be the one person that's not? Do you stand out and say, actually, I don't. I don't agree with what's happened here, and I don't want to support him because I don't know 100% that he is innocent of what he's being accused of. But, of course, every single Liverpool player wore that T-shirt. It's a similar thing here. Effectively, they're all wearing the same T-shirt. They're all saying the same thing, and it's... Again, it's because it's so strong, and the fact is that he has been proven guilty, that Salazar has got a 4-year ban, that it's there, it's real. Now, how you deal with that and how you... It might just be that eventually this does just get brushed under the carpet. Eventually, we all forget about it and it just carries on and we forget about it. I just feel at the moment something more needs to be done. I feel sorry if you're an athlete that worked under him and you were completely innocent. But the truth is, let's try and think of an example. If, for instance, it turned out that someone that I was involved, a goalkeeper coach, and this doesn't happen, obviously, but if there was a goalkeeper coach I was involved with, that suddenly it found out that they were in the position Salazar was, and they were giving all their goalkeepers certain things to make them more powerful, quicker, better reactions, etc., then I would be under suspicion. Now, that would be horrible because I'm innocent. But, of course, I'd be under suspicion, and it's just bad luck.
Yeah. Well, that's it, isn't it? It's guilt by association, unfortunately. I'm just quite keen on what the performance-enhancing things for a goalkeeper would be, like hand glue. You've just seen David De Gea has been on the hand glue again.
There is actually a product called
springs in his boots.
Oh yeah. Oh, he's got a jetpack on.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a jetpack. He's
Oh.
come and caught that cross, and in fact, he has gone into orbit.
Yes.
Yes, he's.
I tell you what, Aidy Boothroyd would like.
Go on.
Some real, like, springy legs so you could just 100 yards up the pitch.
You could. Yeah, you could.
Like Paul Robinson's goal against Ben Foster. That would just happen all the time under those new,
this is
drugs.
This is it, you see.
I think Andy Murray's got some serious questions to answer, isn't he? The bloke's
He's
now
got a metal hip.
He's
Yeah.
metal, isn't he?
Yeah.
But where does this end? Because at what point do we just see Cristiano Ronaldo where it gets to a stage where you can actually just turn him off at the back?
He's
Yeah,
like a
it's bionic.
cyborg. Yeah, the Terminator.
Yeah.
Tell
I'd
you
like
what,
to see it.
This is it, and all of a
Be
sudden,
great.
we're talking about all these jobs that are at risk. All of a sudden, footballers' jobs will be at risk.
Yeah.
Robots.
But we're lucky to be in the era of Ronaldo and Messi, but hopefully we can expand that through the generations by just harvesting them and making them bionic, and
This is
there
it.
you go.
AI.
Yeah.
What a note to finish on.
Oh.
Well, there you go. I feel like we've
What
tackled.
a future we've got.
We've tackled all the issues today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Well, I,
Producer
for one,
Kieran.
am really glad that's over.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Patrick, enjoyable as always. Kieran, fantastic. My name's Richard Lee. Stay tuned. Martin Bell is up next. You're listening to Love Sport.
This is Love Sport.
You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage.
Kenna men.
Cage.
Pants and pads.
You're
discreet.
Leak.
Masculine.
You're in
secure absorption zone. Buy online or in shops.
You're in
Tenna men. Keep control.
Urine?
No.
There are fewer than 10 days to get ready for Brexit. Find out what you need to do to prepare now at gov.uk/Brexit.
This is Lionel, another very happy person.